Mic, voice test. Okay. So I will off the video from here. Mic, voice test. Okay. So I will off the video from here.
Why just suddenly so small? Just now was the head only, but now so small.
There's a I have to pull it front. So this is like the normal camera view, but then I'll be using my hand.
Huh?
Now I'm holding the phone.
Really? Just suddenly so
Yep.
small.
This is where the monitor
Just now was
camera
the head
is.
only,
There's a
but now
distance.
so small.
So
Wow.
there's a I have to
How?
pull it front. I don't know the normal resolution distance. I'll be using my hand.
Okay, so the speaker, all of us
Now
will
I'm
be
holding
in
the
the
phone.
breakout room, right? Really?
Just
Suddenly so
Yep.
small.
This is where the monitor
Just now was the
camera
head
is.
only,
There's a
but now
distance.
so small.
So
Wow.
there's a
Are we starting on time? Is everybody muted? Okay, this is beautiful. So nice. Very nice.
Boss, I don't want to become nurse already. I come back.
Tadi pakai macam nurse putih.
Jadi nurse sudah aku change baju.
Betul tak?
Memang that you know how you look is very important. It's how I'm looking at. I don't know how I'm looking at. You know. So you
I've
only.
never seen you wearing white before. That's why.
Oh, I see. Next time I wear pink, eh?
Okay, boleh?
Okay, done.
Boleh. Janganlah. Pink sangat jadi maid pula.
Oh, okay. Then warna apa?
Like uniform.
Okay, okay. Next time boss bagilah uniform. Jadi kita pun pakai uniform lah bila datang virtual office.
Uniform kan kita ada.
Adalah, kau tak ada bagi apa uniform.
Yang biru punya tu.
Bos, aku dah kerja 3 tahun lah.
Habis?
Bagilah uniform baru. 2021 punya colour different.
First 2021 colour.
I don't know lah. You go and find out lah, boss.
Putih hitam macam tu.
I think everyone is coming in. Okay.
Okay. Alright, so all the best everyone. We're starting soon. Yeah, smile.
Renee is already in room 1.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Zhi. I'm now working at a bank and taking MBA courses in Xiamen University, Malaysia. And so here's my partner for today.
Hi, I'm Weiser. I'm a project engineer on the weekday and also a Xiamen University MBA student on the weekend.
Yep, we will be your MC for today, and welcome to Xiamen University Virtual Networking Day. So before we begin, I have a small request here. Let's turn on your camera at all times because we would really like to see you face to face and get to know you more on a personal level. Yep, so I hope everyone can turn on your camera.
Don't be shy.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay. Thank you for turning on your camera.
Wow, what an amazing crowd we have today, Zhi.
Yeah, that is correct. Thank you for your time for joining us today in this event. And we have a full house here in Zoom today. So for information, we'll be recording this meaningful event today.
And indeed, this is all because of the amazing crowd, full of energy. We have planned some games for you to warm up for 3 informative talks later. And we also will wrap up with a forum with all speakers will join together to answer all your queries and also to discuss the latest development of blockchain.
Yep. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for your choice to be with us today. And for the next 20 minutes, we will have prepared a mini game session for everyone to participate and have some fun.
So you may use your secondary devices to scan the QR code shown in the slide. So give us a moment, the slide will come up soon. Okay, it will bring you to the Mentimeter page, all right? Or if you can't really see the slide, scan the QR code. I mean, you can always enter the website, use your secondary devices to scan the browser code. Enter the website slide www.menti.com soon MENTI. It will bring you to the Mentimeter page and input the 8-digit code. Or if you can't really see the slide, 2269 the QR code 3350. Enter the website, use your secondary device. Let us know if you have any face any problems entering the Mentimeter. Menti.com soon MENTI. It will bring you to the chat. You can see the link is also given. You can click on the chat. 2269 the QR code 3350. So the Mentimeter is basically an interactive platform software for instant feedback for all of the responses. So the pin number is also given. You can click 222269 3350. Okay, so 2269 3350. That is correct. Thank you very much. Platform software.
Yep. Please let us know if you have any problem facing when you want to enter the Mentimeter.
So the pin number is I believe there will be some some miracles happen that the QR code is now there. You should be seeing this very page when you enter right now.
Please let us know.
Okay, so don't worry, it is not because it is freeze or something. You'll be seeing this page. Okay. The pin number is all right. We have how many members do we have now? Some miracles happen. 4, 7, 9. You should be seeing this very page when you enter. Great. Okay, so don't worry, it is not because it is freeze or something. You'll be seeing this page. Okay. The pin number is 17. Don't be shy. This is anonymous. We make sure that your name will not appear. Don't worry. Some miracles happen.
Yes, correct.
It's very fun. You can type anything you want. You can. There's also some questions on Malaysians' favorite multiple choice questions. There are also some that requires a bit more creative interactions. Don't be shy. This is anonymous. Yep. Let the number goes up. Your name will not appear. Don't worry. some miracles happen.
Yes, correct.
It's very fun. You can deny anything you want. Discount. You can. There's also some questions on. Please scan the code, the QR code. If it's not Malaysian's favorite, then you can go on with the browser menti.com, and the code is 2269 3350. Okay, you'll be lead to this very page.
Yes,
please
correct.
be a little patient as we admitting more participants. So if please scan the code. The
Yes,
QR code,
we can see a lot of love sending through the
you can go
Mentimeter.
on with the browser menti.com.
Thank you all.
And the code is
And
2269
just a small reminder
Okay, you'll be
here,
lead to
if you
this
don't
very
mind,
page.
we would
Please
really
be a
love
little
you to
patient
have
as
your
we
camera open
admitting
so that we
more-
can see
more
you.
participants. Even for those who are not joining us,
Yes,
you are
we can
joining
see a lot of
from
love sending through the Mentimeter.
out of Zoom, you can also participate,
Thank you
yeah,
all.
because the question will appear on your devices. 269
Just a small reminder
Okay, you'll be
here,
lead to
if you
this
don't
very
mind,
page.
we would really love you to
Okay.
have your camera
So
open so that we can see you.
let's try the first question. Don't worry, the Mentimeter will keep on going.
Yes,
Okay,
we can
if
see
you
a
are
lot of love
unable to
sending
join
through
now,
the
you can
Mentimeter.
always out of Zoom. You can also key in the menti.com at your browser and with the code 22693350.
Just a
All
small
right.
reminder here,
Let's
if you
try
don't mind,
with
we
the
would
first
really
question.
love you to
Okay,
have your
this is
camera
a
open
testing
so that
game.
we can see you.
Let's try.
Yes.
If you are, don't worry. Are you able to see this cute?
If you are
unable to
animals
join now, you can
What is
always
that?
out of Zoom. You can also key in
Apparently, there are
your
two
browser
squirrels,
and with the
and
code
in the middle, it's mixed with some
22693350.
other
All right.
animals.
Let's try with the first question.
A shaking head cat.
This is
Okay,
testing game. Okay.
that's cute.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good.
So, yeah,
Are you able to see
we
this
received some
cute?
responses here. Most of them have done quizzes online.
So for those who haven't, don't worry. We'll
Apparently,
guide
there are
you
two
step by step.
squirrels,
And
and in the middle, and we can assure you this will be a great experience for you.
with the first question.
A shaking head cat.
This is
Okay,
right. Okay.
that's
Let's
cute.
move on.
Yes.
Okay, good.
So, okay, yeah. So, we received some responses. How do you feel today? There are two boxes where you can fill in your
So for
feelings.
those who haven't, don't worry.
Maybe
We'll guide you
excited
step by step.
or happy, and we can assure you or somehow nervous. Yeah, for you.
Or
Shaking
being
head
creative.
cat.
All
Okay.
right. This is open-ended. You can key in anything you want.
Okay.
Ooh.
Great.
So can't wait.
Positive. How do you feel today? Oh no, there's someone who answers sad. Why sad though?
So for those who haven't, don't
Worried,
worry.
excited, or
Wow.
happy. The words that appear big is the most common answer
Or
that is
being
found by
creative.
you all. So
This is
we can see that
open-ended.
most of us are
You can key in
excited.
anything you want. Oh, hungry.
Great.
How do you feel
Oh
today?
no, because we're having this at the lunchtime, so
We hope
Yes.
you had some
Worried,
lunch and you can still grab on some bites while playing this game.
the words that appear big, hey, the answers are still coming.
Most common answer that is
What else do we have?
you all. So
You can see that most
Tired.
of us are excited.
Saturday, yeah, it's
Great.
accumulated for the past
How do you feel
one
Because we're having
Monday
this
to
at
Friday, so I
lunchtime,
think you are showing the effect now
Yes.
of tiredness. So and you can still grab. But don't worry, playing this game. I think it will worth your time to join this session because
What
we'll
else
all
do
be
we have?
learning together and we'll see learn something new.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's correct.
accumulated for the past. The hungry is still there.
Because we're
Please
having
grab
this at
something
lunchtime,
along the way. Showing the effect now of tiredness. So and you can still grab. But don't worry, playing this game. Great. I think it will worth your time. Well, it's good to hear that everybody is all excited together. A little tired and hungry, but let's
correct.
move on with that. With this session, we'll be learning something and we'll make sure that all these little inconvenience will be worth your time. All right. So where are you from? Well, this map is very familiar. We see it every day.
The Malaysian map.
Move on with that.
So there's a plane there. If you're from other countries, you can put a dot on the overseas.
You can
The
see
plane.
from the screen. You can see a little blue circle. So that is the pin. You can move around the pin and place it
The
at
Malaysian
wherever
map.
locations you are from. Okay.
So there's a
And
plane there. If
for
you're
those who are
from
from
other
Kuala
countries,
Lumpur,
you can put a dot on
I mean,
overseas.
we really can't see you there. You can see,
Plane.
so but you will still be loved by all of us. So there's a big heart there. So pin, for those who are from Kuala Lumpur, please pin it at the heart there.
Yes, a big blue heart for you.
Oh, quite a lot from overseas, yeah.
Yeah, there are six of you from overseas. Maybe you can share which country you're from for those who have put the pin on the plane there.
Can you, perhaps you can type it on the chat?
Yep.
Just to share, it'll be quite interesting to find out. Welcome.
Okay.
And for those who are still in the sessions and are not yet joining, you can still join us at menti.com, menti.com, and key in the code 22693350. So now that you see this is getting fun, you can see how this is moving on. You decided that, yes, I want to join. Don't worry, you're still not too late. 22693350, yeah?
And Huaizi, I see that there are two dots in the sea, you see.
See?
Maybe they are swimming.
Uh-oh, do we need to throw them a
Swimming
rope?
over here. Joining this discussion on the sea.
All right. I mean, if you're really from the platform, be safe, yeah? I know that this is not the, it's one of the most exciting and challenging places to work at. All right, so looks like we have quite a lot of people from, then let's, hi, from Jesai, are you from Zambia?
Zambia.
Oh, okay, that's also from Indonesia.
Welcome.
Selamat datang. David from Indonesia, hi. Of course, our speaker is Renee is from Germany. Renee is there. Okay. Okay, let's move on. All right, looks like some of you are getting the hang of it. So this will be scrolling what are you interested in today?
Yep, there are three, I would say, categories. There are industry, application or consultation, entrepreneurship or startup, and lastly, academic or research.
So what are you interested on about blockchain today? So looks like there are quite a huge people. I mean, the pointer is suggesting a lot on entrepreneurship and startup. Wow, okay. Amazing and ambitious people. I really admire those because this is definitely a very challenging steps to take. It's a very brave. It's a very brave one. Yep. So there's still.
Sorry, Huaizi.
There's still quite some also from the industry. Yep. Industry and consultation application.
Yep. But our audience are most towards in entrepreneurship or startup. So maybe you can have some sharing of thoughts later on with our speakers.
Yep. This is a platform for you to engage and for all of us to engage and learning and sharing from one another. Yeah. So don't be shy later to post your questions. All right. So moving on.
Okay, so this is a fun part. We'll be playing a game called Emoji Charades. I'm not sure if you have heard of it before, but we will be displaying a few emojis and you have to guess what they mean. So on to the first one.
So a warm-up question, guess a movie or novel. We have a person in and a hat.
That's a girl.
The girl, the hat, something, and a mysterious creature and a clock. Wow. The time traveler's wife.
Okay, I see that many of us guess it as Alice in Wonderland, but some guess Alice in Borderland. Okay. Not sure if you have.
If that is intentional or oops,
Yes.
oops moment. Okay, so okay, keep on coming, no problem. But we'll move on here, and I mean, this is the taste of how the share it goes. So it is actually Alice in Wonderland. You have a lady, and you have a hat. You have the Casper cat, and also the clock over there, the time. And like Alice in Wonderland, this is a time where I hope all of us can explore, okay, into a land of unexpected, perhaps, and probably come out a better person or knowing more about from this session. Okay.
Okay, so now shall we move on? The second one. Okay, I see there are 3 funny guys there with a ring.
No, it's not the
big
ring.
Diamond.
It's not the ring. No, it's not the ring.
Really? But there's a big diamond there, and I'm sure girls will love it.
It's a very strong marketing tool there. So
okay.
Could be a stone. I would imagine they are stones. Okay, yep. So Lord of the Ring, and the other one is climbing up. The second one is Game of Thrones. Why is it Game of Thrones?
Mind explaining to us what those emojis mean, Huizhi?
Okay, I see a old person with the hat, with a wizard hat. I see a lady that looks like an elf. I see a person in crown. So it's actually three of the characters in the Lord of the Ring. So yes, it is a ring. It's a Fellowship of the Ring, and we hope that in this a networking session, it will be a fellowship for all of us to have a fellowship and wander in the wonderful journey together to, well, not to save the world like in the Lord of the Ring, but will be, yes, there's no Hobbit. To be frank, I wanted to add in, but it's quite a library of emoji to search. So so yes, it's a good suggestion there. If I have the emoji, don't worry, it will definitely be inside, because even hobbits have a role. So there's no role too big, too small in the Fellowship of the Ring. Okay, let's move on. So this is the real questions. Guess forwards. We have a hint here. What brings you here?
Yep, this is a hard one.
Please type it out.
Okay, just a small reminder here for those who join a bit later, you can come into this mini game session through www.menti.com and use the code 22693350.
Yes, we have a lot of blockchain. Good. There are supposed to be 4 words.
Yep, each emoji representing 1 word.
2030 mission. Wow. All right, so indeed, first word will be a blockchain. So everybody seems to be getting that correctly. Blockchain. So okay, so yes. So first is the block. Okay, the block sign, and then the chain. So that forms blockchain, and you have a cross and the target. So that is, the cross is at the center, so it's decentralized. All right, and 2030 is definitely not now. What is it, Z?
So it's the future.
So
That's
yes,
it.
blockchain, the decentralized future.
Yep, correct. So good. Yes, thank you everyone for your guesses. It is today's topic.
So for those who have got it right, congratulations. Now okay.
So after a small fun, we would like to know how well you understand about blockchain. So we'll be asking a few blockchain questions. First, who created Bitcoin?
Is it? Wow, immediately Satoshi
Yes.
Nakamoto comes up. Wow.
Seems like you guys know about it. Okay.
Our crowd here are very knowledgeable about Bitcoin.
I'm sure that Horochi Konoharu is from an anime, if not mistaken. Maybe.
Maybe. Okay, so yes, indeed, it is Satoshi Nakamoto. Satoshi Nakamoto, who created the Bitcoin.
In 2009.
Okay, let's move on. The next, where do you store your cryptocurrency?
A bank account, a floppy disk, wallet, or in your pocket. I probably will store it in my pocket.
I don't trust the bank, but I still keep it in the bank account. Okay.
We have most responses on wallet.
Wow. Okay, great. So yes, cryptocurrency are stored in the wallet, not the physical one, but the electronic wallet.
Yep.
All right. So what is a blockchain?
Yes. What do you think is a blockchain? So there are 4 options there. Wow.
Whoa.
Okay. Seems like everyone does know about blockchain actually.
Great.
So yeah. We have most responses on distributed ledger.
And we have a few on crypto exchange and the blockchain. Good. All right. Let's move on with the next question. So how would you rate your knowledge on blockchain?
How do you think you know about blockchain? Yes. How should we rate this, Waizi?
So are you a blockchain end user only? Or you are now making use of blockchain to make some extra income via crypto trader? Or you are the industry expert that is way up front, ahead?
Okay, I see that crypto trader is coming up.
Wow. I hope they can share how to
trade, right? Yeah, I'm also interested. I hope they can share their knowledge later.
And we have some industrial expert as well. Wow. Amazing, amazing, amazing crowd that we have today.
Yes, definitely.
For crypto traders, I wish you all the best as well. I really don't quite know how to do that, but I'm sure there are ways of taking advantage of the blockchain.
Yep. Shall we move on? Okay, so what type of industry do you think blockchain will have the greatest impact? Okay.
For these questions, you'll be having a selection of ranking. So once you pick the first item, the second one it will disappear on the second options. So you are ranking based on that. So the first number 1, you have 5 to choose from, and number 2, you have 4, and similarly following that will be 3 and 2, and the last one will be the only one option left. So okay, everybody is choosing financial, and the rest are moving up and down. Well, you can continue.
Yep, but second still is logistics and distribution.
Wow.
It's like looking at a race, an Olympic race maybe. We are the commentators.
And the race is between government and the sales marketing now.
Yes.
Sales marketing is trying very hard to move to number 3rd positions, and no, there's no response further. Okay, so most of the crowd here has agreed that the financial will see the greatest impact from blockchain. However, there are also logistics and government, and last will be healthcare. But for your information, today's speaker will address some of the industry here, especially from the healthcare sector, where AK, our third speaker, will be addressing how the applications of blockchain in the healthcare. We also have the first speaker, Dr. Fazli, who will be addressing on the government, how the government side is having the impact from the blockchain side. And Rene, of course, will be sharing on all his experience with the logistics and also the sales and marketing. So please stay tuned. We are bringing you all the speakers that we are not expecting, because we see that financial will be the first one. That's what we think. But let's hear from our speakers how other sectors are also being played.
Yes, so here comes the ending. Thank you for playing.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Well done, everyone. Thank you for joining the ice-breaking session. I hope you have enjoyed yourselves in the activity. I know, sorry, I just move on.
Yeah, I know you're all excited, yeah, but please let us quickly take a photo together, okay? Mike, are you ready to help us with the photo, please?
Hi everyone, please do turn on your video cameras if possible. We would like to see all your beautiful and handsome faces. Renee is all ready. During the photo session, please do hold your smiles a bit longer, 3 seconds, so that we can take the photo of everyone. Because there are 2 screens at the moment, we will be taking pictures of both screens. So please hold your smiles just in case you're at the wrong screen, okay? All right, I can see some are not turning on yet. All right, but it's okay. Let's take one photo here. Oh, they're still turning on slowly. Patting down each other, final makeup session, is it? All right. Okay. Everyone is here. In 3, 2, 1, say cheese. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mike. So to formally begin the session, allow me to invite Dr. T. Keng Kok, Director of the MBA Center, Xiamen University, Malaysia, to deliver his welcoming remarks. Dr. T, please.
Doctor, you're currently muted, I think.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me, everyone?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Hoitze and Sui. It was a very interesting game just now. Really appreciate the game. We got to know a bit better about our audience this afternoon. So it was a well-played game, and thank you very much. I mean, it brings a lot of information for me to digest about our crowd today, right? So, okay, welcome everyone to our virtual networking day 6.0, entitled Blockchain, the Decentralized Future. Brought to you by MBA Center, Xiamen University, Malaysia. So throughout the Movement Control Order, or known as MCO, right, and Conditional Movement Control Order, CMCO, we had a few interesting sessions. We had crowdfunding. So far, we have also digital transformation during the pandemic. We also have craft beer appreciation. Yes, craft beer. Right. We also learned about the industry of craft beer. We have online Tabata. We have artisan chocolate appreciation. Yes, you heard me right. It is chocolate appreciation. Doing business in China, just to name a few. All the sessions are not restricted to only our students, but open to public as well. So you might be wondering, right, why we are doing all this? Why are we so actively engaging so many online sessions? Well, our MBA program subscribes to the holistic learning approach. If you ask what is the holistic learning approach, right? So it is when we marry the formal, informal, and non-formal form of learning. In other words, we believe it is not only important to combine theory with practice, but also to expose our students to what is happening outside the world. and most importantly, to have the opportunity to network with industry captains like what we are doing now. We believe no one should learn in silo, especially in the MBA program, right? So for the benefit of those who are strangers to Xiamen University, please allow me to introduce the university. I won't go overboard, but we'll share 5 interesting facts about the campus, right? So number 1, Xiamen University Malaysia is is a branch campus of Xiamen University from the Fujian province south of China, right? So just in case you are unaware, Xiamen is an island. If you look at here, right? So it's zoomed into an island. So Xiamen is an island, it's beautiful. It gives me the feeling of Penang and Singapore, right? Married together. Yeah. So the university is one of the most beautiful campus in China. If you do not believe me, try looking up at TripAdvisor, right? It is not easy to visit our main campus. It's not like you can just walk in. It is rated top 3 tourist destination in Xiamen. You have to make reservations to enter the university. Yeah. So before attempting to visit our campus, please come to the Malaysian campus, right? So from the video, I believe you can tell that it is not less beautiful, right? Okay, so fact number 2. It is ranked the top 2 percentile of about 1,000 universities in China, and is recently celebrated its 100-year anniversary. It was a very big scale celebration for an entire day. If you look at the celebration, it's like a concert. They have a concert for the whole day, right? So because they had it during the pandemic, but China is already out that time, so people were free, right, in China. Yeah, so number 3, we are a full-fledged comprehensive university, and the Malaysian campus has been here for more than 5 years. Yeah. So according to my experience, many people first reaction when they visit the campus is wow, really wow, huh? Wow. So in other words, I'm inviting you to visit the campus when we can travel. Yeah, please come, Huh? So fact number 4. We have currently about 5,000 students, and the medium instruction is English. So many people thought we are Chinese university, so our medium instruction is in Mandarin. So it's not. Ours is in English. Yeah. And fact number 5. I'm proud to say that the MBA program and the students are one of the best in Malaysia. Yeah. If you do not believe me, check out our. You don't believe me, right? Check out our website, or just look at our students, right? Look at Huaizi, Si, and Wen Kai later. You will see, right? They're all one of the best in the world, I would say. Yeah. So now back to the talk. I stopped talking. I stopped my sales pitch now. Let's go back to networking day. It is a very interesting talk we have this afternoon by 3 very distinguished speakers in their own respective fields. I would like to take the opportunity to sincerely thank Dato' Fazli, Renee, AK, and Choco for being friends of MBA Center, Xiamen University, Malaysia. I cannot thank enough for your willingness to share with our students some insider knowledge on blockchain and how it affects businesses. And also not forgetting the enthusiasm and energy from our students. Huaizi, Si, thank you very much. Wen Kai, thank you. And MBA staff, Yenting, Michael, Surya, for the long hours of preparation, commitment, and dedication in making this networking day 6.0 a success. Right, so thank you all, thank you. So Si, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. T. Thank you for your kind words. So our first talk of the day will be presented by Dato' Fazli Shah. His topic for today is the ASEAN future will be built on the blockchain. Dato' Fazli Shah has a vast experience in digital technology and startups. He received his education at University College London, Harvard University, and London Business School. Dato' Fazli is currently the Managing Director of Awesome Digital Assets, and he was also appointed as the Chief Strategy Officer of Malaysia Digital Economy Corporation, which is also known as MDEC. In MDEC, he has contributed greatly in early stage startups, infrastructure project investment, and also management consulting. So as an entrepreneur and investor, His insights and experience has helped shape MDEC's digital economy drive and initiatives for the benefits of all Malaysians. So therefore, it is our great pleasure to have Dato Fazli to our event today and share his thoughts. I believe everyone will get a fruitful knowledge from our renowned speaker. So without further ado, let's welcome Dato Fazli.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me today. I hope you all can hear me. Can you just put up your hands if the audio and video coming across all right? Okay, great. So first of all, I just want to thank Dr. T for such an amazing introduction. To be honest, I was in university probably more than a decade ago, and I wish my university was as interesting and beautiful as Xiamen. And I actually also just realized quite a few things about the Xiamen Malaysia campus that I think your last point there, where I also assumed that the medium of language would be Chinese, but it's interesting, and congratulations to the MBA Center for having one of the best performing MBA programs in the country. I hope that companies such as us, as I will selflessly plug at the end of my pitch, will be able to benefit from a lot of your graduating cohorts. So without further ado, I would like to spend a bit of the next hour kind of sharing with you where we see the blockchain space headed and shaping up in the ASEAN context. And of course, being in Malaysia, we look also specifically at some opportunities in Malaysia. Thank you so much for the kind introduction. I did leave MDEC in April to concentrate specifically on the blockchain space because I do believe that that's going to be probably the biggest growth in the next coming decade or so. Before I begin, maybe I just want to share that the blockchain space is really nascent or very early in its development, right? I'm sure just now I was watching the games being played. A lot of you recognize the inventor of Bitcoin. And through my slides, I'll try to kind of give a bit of context of where we are as an industry. But what I would say is, if you compare this to the internet, we're really in the mid 1980s type of internet development, right? Today, we kind of take it for granted that the internet is the internet. But actually, if you go back to the late 80s and even the early 1990s, the network that could have become the internet, there was not only one choice. There were multiple networks that would have been able to perform this kind of role. And eventually, a set of protocols won out. And today, we all take it for granted that is the internet. But actually, there were many different internets, if you will, that could have been the main choice. So I believe similarly in the blockchain space, what we know today as a blockchain space, one day there will be a de facto standard blockchain, right? One standard that is widely adopted all over the world. And that I also hope to share in our session today. I wouldn't try to predict which one would become the de facto standard, but at least for some of you who are looking out there, like what should you be looking at in terms of the different protocols? So I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to try to use this new feature by Zoom, which I think is quite cool. I hope it works, right? But this is innovations like that, right? Like you try it out and then you see whether it works. So it's a picture-in-picture. You should be able to see my slides at the back, and then I'm still here, right? So I think it's a pretty cool new feature by Zoom. It's pretty amazing what technology can do nowadays, right? So okay, of course, thank you so much for being online. I do understand that it's totally different than being in a live setting. So do take the opportunity to kind of put in questions and everything in the chat as I go along. And then I believe we're making some time towards the end of this session, specifically if we can address some questions up front. But there's also another session after Aki and Renee speak that we can also address some specific questions, right? So, okay, let's get going. ASEAN's future, I would argue, will be built on blockchain for various reasons that hopefully I can introduce today. So once again, I want to thank the MBA Center for having us. First of all, Awesome Digital Assets, we are looking and partnering with various players all along the value chain. We hope to catalyze multiple blockchain projects in and across Southeast Asia. Our team is really made up by professionals who have, like 20, 30 years of experience each in capital markets, because the investor part of it is very important. The corporate participation is very important. We have deep technology developments. We have guys who have built stuff from MyG to TGV to Lazada and also some interesting stuff within the cross-border space. And of course, my background is really from the startup and tech world, and most recently kind of working to, in the public policy side, right? Blockchain in itself is actually named within the two key policies which kind of are supposed to, kind of give us the direction of where the nation's headed. So that's the Digital Economy Blueprint, or also known as My Digital, and then the National Fourth Industrial Revolution Policy, right? Blockchain is one of the 5 key fundamental technologies to realize transformation within a lot of industries. But I would argue that actually blockchain is going to exist in one way, shape, or form in almost every industry. So today, just as an overview, I'll try to go over, just a common understanding of what is blockchain, what are some of the global trends, and when we look at the local industry assessment, ASEAN-wide or Southeast Asian-wide, and then also name a few near-term opportunities that, I saw from the games just now, a lot of you are thinking about going into entrepreneurship. So where's that next big bet, right? Where is the next Amazon? Where is the next SEA, Garena, or now Shopee? Where's the next Lazada? So maybe one of you, and I hope, not just one, but a few of you will be the guys who create this next generation of amazing companies. So blockchain essentially is just another database technology, right? At its core, it's really just another way of managing and interfacing as databases or hosting a database. Initially, before we kind of use the term quite widely as blockchain, it really is a distributed ledger technology, or what initially started off as a digital ledger technology, right? It's actually, in concept, similar to like how you would use Excel. But now this Excel is being used by multiple nodes or players along a network, and then it has different characteristics that makes it more robust, more secure, more scalable than something like Excel. Beyond just the collaboration feature that you probably have on your Excel today, right? You can click collaborate and somebody can kind of also work the database with you. So what are some of those features of blockchain, right? Number one, of course, is distributed. And this is true for almost all of the projects, that it doesn't sit on a single computer or a single set of computers within one particular building. It's across many different nodes, what they call nodes within a network. And typically these networks are boundless. That means it doesn't all have to sit in the same country, doesn't all have to sit in the same city, and they communicate obviously via the internet. Okay, number two, the players, the participants, or the people or the accounts which put transactions into the blockchain at its core remain anonymous. Now, this is true to a degree only because at the actual blockchain level, right, the database level, it is all anonymous. As in, I wouldn't know that it's Dr. T, but there are services built around the blockchain which, for various other reasons, remove anonymity, right? I'm sure some of you might be thinking right now, eKYC, right? For you to be able to transact some financial transactions, there's a KYC process. So you have to declare your identity. And so maybe when your entry goes into the blockchain, it's associated to a user ID, and then that could eventually be traced back to you. There are advantages and disadvantages, trade-offs for all of these approaches.
Recording in progress.
Number three is that it's unanimous. No one person can put an entry into the blockchain or a blockchain and then have that be true. Other players or other nodes in the blockchain have to verify that that transaction really took place. The transactions are all time-stamped, which is, I think, a very big difference than what you have on Excel, right? You could change here, there, and everywhere, anytime, any place on the file, as long as you have kind of the access to be able to write the file. Immutable is very important. That's why it's called a chain, right? So every set of transactions which are recorded becomes a block, and that block comes at the end of the existing chain. So what has already been once validated by the network cannot be changed retrospectively. Now, I'm sure some of you have been looking into the space. You would say, well, actually, there have been a few cases where people have changed things that have happened in the past in the blockchain, but and there are various reasons for that. But the truth, but on a technical level, they didn't actually change something that has happened in the past. They made a new entry that then basically reverses something that happened in the past. So I think this characteristic of being immutable, or the fact that things in the past cannot be changed in the future directly on the past entry, that is still true for the majority, if not all, of the blockchain projects. The third is, of course, secure because it doesn't sit on one particular computer. No one person can kind of hack it or own it or change it on their own. It is secure in that sense, and this is actually one of the biggest kind of promises of the blockchain technology. And of course, now we've already moved into the realm of where certain transactions can be programmable, that once you do certain things on a blockchain, other things will happen, whether or not there are humans involved in it. And in the majority of the cases, the humans are not involved at all, right? It just happens programmatically on the blockchain. Now, there are 5 common myths around blockchain that hopefully I share here. These are not the only ones, but because this is such new space and it continues to grow, there are some misconceptions that I think are quite important to clarify in the beginning. Number one, blockchain is not Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a application built on a blockchain, but in itself it's not the blockchain. And I understand why this misconception kind of happens, because Bitcoin probably is one of the most famous and visible, publicly visible applications on the blockchain. And of course, just as I pointed out just now, somebody here, or most of you here, know who Nakamoto is, or rather the character that is Nakamoto, because until today we don't know, it's still anonymous, right? We don't know the real identity of the person, but that's fairly important to understand. You can build significant applications on blockchains, and some of them will be really, really big, like Bitcoin. But it doesn't mean that Bitcoin in itself becomes a blockchain. If I had to compare it to the internet, Bitcoin is, for those of us who maybe grew up in the 80s and 90s, it is the Yahoo, Alta Vista, or maybe even the Internet Explorer of that time, right? But Bitcoin may not necessarily become the eventual Google of the space. It may not be I don't think the evidence is already kind of clear that Bitcoin will become the dominant, I guess, cryptocurrency in this space, right? But it's very promising. Number two, that blockchain is better than traditional databases. Now, of course, I'm in the space, and I would argue that there's lots of great applications that you can benefit from building on the blockchain, but it is also true that certain use cases of just managing data are better to be done not on a blockchain, right? I think you can imagine, like, if every file that you built on Excel had to be on a blockchain, and it was a fairly quick activity you had to do while you're on your MBA program, maybe not something that you have to do with a blockchain distributed across all of your classmates in the class. That Excel file to generate that chart could be done very quickly by yourself and maybe your small project group with Excel rather than blockchain. Number three, that blockchain is totally immutable and tamper-proof. The tamper-proof part is even in theory can be kind of taken advantage of if somebody actually can control more than 50% of the hash rate, or in simple language, 50% of the computing power of creating the next block. So if you could achieve that, then you could technically, guarantee what the next block would say in terms of the transactions. Now, in large applications like Bitcoin, it's very, very difficult to do. I believe certain people have tried to do projections of how much that would cost. You would need a few thousand, tens of thousands of nodes, and then you would need probably a few 100 million to be able to just control what the next block within the Bitcoin blockchain would be able to record, right? So at some point of scale, it becomes very, very expensive. And so because of that, fairly unrealistic for somebody to kind of tamper with that blockchain. And of course, the last one is that the blockchain is the ultimate truth machine. This is not true. Blockchain is only true up to the level of any data recorded on a blockchain is verified, and people have verified that that transaction took place. But whether those transactions took place what we call off-chain before they are recorded, that is not something that the blockchain core technology itself can account for, and that's why you need to have a network of very trusted players around there. And a great example of this, just to kind of paint a picture in your head, is an exchange, right? So if you use Luno today, Luno is going to say on the Bitcoin blockchain, hey, X number of Bitcoins have transferred from these wallets to these wallets, right? Based on our records as an exchange. Now, people will verify that, but all of what Luno initially says happened is based on Luno telling the truth. So that's why I think in a lot of markets, you're saying that they're trying to regulate or make sure the players that sit on top of the blockchain are truthful actors. Okay. Now, having said that, so where do we use blockchain? There's really two main use cases that we're seeing now. Number one is that you store static information that doesn't really change day to day. And number two, that you use it as a registry of information that will be traded between different actors on a value chain, right? So number one, if you look at a static registry, something like our land office, if any of you have ever bought a home or bought a piece of land or an apartment, even though you sign whatever you sign with the lawyers and the real estate agent, eventually the land office receives an order, and then the land office transfers, the ownership from Dr. T to myself, or for myself to Mr. Chung, for example, right? So that registry of land titles could sit on a blockchain, and then the different players like the lawyers and the real estate agents would then submit orders where things within the registry changes. Number two, and this is fairly interesting for countries like Malaysia, we have an existing IC system, right? So many of you who are Malaysians probably have a blue IC. Some of you who are foreigners may have a pink IC, but we have a national identification system. And similarly, we also have that for companies. We have the SSM, or the registrar companies. Now, when you sit in Malaysia, it looks very like you take it for granted. Of course, you have a registry for people and businesses, but actually in many countries, they don't have one registry, or some of them don't even have a formal registry, right? So for example, in India, before they did the Al-Adha program, they had multiple disconnected registries, and then they made it into a national registry. Indonesia, even today, you could have 3 different identification cards, each issued by a different authority in Indonesia. So Malaysia is at least at a space where we have a unified identification system. And so building them onto the blockchain to kind of give what we're currently calling the national digital identity, which is a way for you to transact with businesses online, the same way that you kind of put your IC in when you go to a bank, for example, to verify your identification. You could do that online with the blockchain technology. The third is, of course, if some of you are trading Ethereum, or you bought applications built. So there's a blockchain, and then there's the ERC20 protocol, which is Ethereum. And then on top of Ethereum, they built products like ETH, which is their currency. And then other people have built products on top of the protocol. Those are what we call smart contracts, right? And the use cases of smart contracts are huge and profound. You could be using it in insurance payments, right? So when somebody has an accident, prove it on the blockchain, and then whether the insurance company likes it or not, the payments will be made out because it complies with very, very strict rules that have to be verified via the way that you interface with that blockchain. You also see a lot of smart contracts being employed in what we call DeFi, decentralized finance, right? Today, you're putting your money in CIMB, for example, and CIMB tells you, and they promise you that, okay, here's a rate of return or an interest rate on your savings account, right? Or your current account, or maybe your fixed deposits. DeFi allows players to be able to have this without the need of a bank in the middle. So you put it into a pool, and to be honest, it is quite scary. I think if you grew up in a generation like Malaysia, where the trust in banks is very high, it is quite scary to think that you just put your ETH or your BTC, your Bitcoin, into a pool of random strangers, and then it would be safe, and then you would be able to get some return from it, right? But because smart contracts are typically built on ERC20 type protocols, so a lot of them are now being built, and obviously they transact in ETH or Ethereum cryptocurrencies and other cryptocurrencies which are built in similar technologies. The next one is where you have a dynamic registry where things are always changed and exchanged day to day, right? One of the big applications of this and I'm going to share it later is that imagine if when you buy a house, you don't have to buy alone, you buy with 1,000 other people, and then when rental is collected on their house, you don't even have to trust each other or know each other. All the 1,000 people will receive their parts of the rental on time and securely, right? So that's what you look at, a dynamic registry of different players, or if some of you have been doing some computer science kind of modules, this is what's really known as a many-to-many relationship, right? So many players into one side of the equation, going out to many kind of assets that are within the network. The fifth, of course, countries like Malaysia, we have huge remittance industries. As I'm sure you're aware, there's a lot of foreign workers from Philippines, Indonesia, Burma, Nepal, India. So the use cases within the payments infrastructure is huge, right? When you send money, let's say I just sent money for my my home helper to Indonesia, I'm going to be incurring transaction costs, forex rates and everything. So cross-border payments, even at the remittance level, it's a huge application space. But also, if you know Malaysia's history with trade, and again, I have something like this in the examples at the end, where we trade a lot with China, and we have DFTZ or the Digital Free Trade Zone. The opportunity to digitalize payments across borders is immense, right? And companies spend, I wouldn't say they lose a lot of money, currently they spend a lot of money on the existing traditional infrastructure to be able to get this done. Now, the last is of course a catch-all category that others like you'll be able, oh, I'm not even sure if I'm blocking the words, you know, but yeah, you'll see like you have ICO, stable coins, so many creative applications built on top of blockchain technology and the promise of blockchain technology. So, having said that, where is all of this headed, at least on a global sphere, right? What are the important things that have been happening recently to the kind of blockchain space? And to understand recently, you have to understand where it's kind of started from, right? Blockchain, this technology is not new, right? It's been something that has been around, but maybe has not been famous or on mainstream for until very recently. It's been around since the 1990s, right? At some point in the 1990s, somebody said, hey, what we're doing on one computer or a few computers could be done via many computers across a huge network, and nobody could easily tamper with the information in that database, which is eventually, you know, 19 years later, somebody who claims to be named Satoshi Nakamoto created the protocol that eventually became Bitcoin. And the promise is that you would be able to use money on the internet without banks, intermediaries, or central banks kind of being involved in that process. And of course, that started a series and string of events that, where they kind of like look at new opportunities, the new applications. Some of course built on Bitcoin, but some beyond that. And I think what's important is like really in the early 2010s, people started playing with this idea of smart contracts, right? Or programming what happens with your cryptocurrencies when it enters into certain transactions on these and then eventually you in this crazy world of blockchain where nobody knows each other or has to trust each other because you trust what the computers are supposed to do with each other, came a lot of concern of permission versus permissionless, right? Permissionless really, you really don't have to prove to anyone who you are, and then you can participate. Whether permission means that you have to sacrifice certain set of rules before you can actually use or be part of the application that sits within that protocol. And we, you know, you see a lot of changes happening in that space. And of course, the third, okay, maybe this picture thing was a bit tricky when I have slides that have something in the lower right corner, but I'll share the slides out later so you guys can also read it yourself. You're really looking at a lot of market consolidation. Regulators are getting very involved in the space. Countries are looking at their own agendas, and then for various reasons and strategies, people have to kind of consolidate and become bigger, right? So where does that leave us in this space? Well, really a few major events have happened recently, but I put out this huge chart of lots of different brands and names, and I think before I talk about the Coinbase IPO, which is probably the biggest significant event in the cryptocurrency space. You know, cryptocurrencies are just as Bitcoin is an application of blockchain. Cryptocurrencies is just one more segment of the entire blockchain world, and I think it's just a start, not really the end, right? So if you look at the currency space, is where kind of a lot of things have matured more relative to the rest of the slide. And as they have matured, there's been a lot of developer tools that have been created. And I think maybe somebody like AK might talk more about the different developer tools which are available. But it allows you, similar to like how you would use Java or Xcode if you're building apps. So this is a world where there's more than just the Android platform and the iOS platform. There's like each of the protocols is another platform, and then you need different tools to be able to build different interesting applications. So when I say applications also, it's not really like just a smartphone app, right? It could be a smartphone app, but typically it is not a smartphone app. It is something broader that you could plug and play into lots of different things within your business. And then, you look at sovereignty and how countries are involved, how countries' assets like their own fiat currencies are involved. And then things kind of like from there, once that bridge was made from kind of like the blockchain space into real world money and real world transactions, is where you kind of see the rest of these things evolving. Now, where is this headed? Honestly, I think there are a few big things in the near future, in the next 5-10 years, which are going to be instrumental to kind of like how blockchain develops in specific countries. Number one, the idea of decentralized finance, or being able to provide financial services without an intermediary such as a bank. It's going to be huge. NFTs, you know, for those of you who may be familiar with NFTs, historically, whatever you create from one protocol like a Bitcoin, every Bitcoin is the same as the other, right? Just like how you have one ringgit is the same as the next ringgit, you know. But eventually somebody said, hey, there should be a concept of colored tokens. That means on the same family of tokens, different tokens have different properties and maybe different rights. Whereas the NFT space took this all the way to the other end and said everything is unique, right? So every token is unique to a certain degree, and no two tokens are the same. That's what makes it non-fungible. And of course, today we see that in digital art, and essentially people paying a lot for the ownership of that art. But I do believe, like the example I gave you just now, if it's going to be the land bank, a land bank will be essentially a collection of NFTs, because every piece of land is different, right? Even if they're the same size, they're in different locations. And then you could use the base NFT technology to build the land office of the future. Okay, and then the third, of course, as I shared, like to build a virtual me or virtual Dr. T onto a blockchain thing, so that we can be represented, and then that virtual identity of mine or his transacts with different systems. The issue of identity is another huge space that I would argue no country and no one company has exactly gotten it right. We don't know whether you can use the same standard across the entire world, you know, but there are some applications that actually have proven that before blockchain. For example, the passport, right? The passports all don't have to be the same, but actually the majority of all countries' passports are built essentially on the same kind of what you could call a technology stack or a set of specifications, which are the same, and every country has accepted them, right? And then actually that's a great example because our passports are built on common technologies, standards and specifications. That's why when you go to certain countries, you can use them in the same machines or their own machines. And that's why in certain countries it's enough that you just accept a stamp in a page, right? That may seem like a simple thing to do, but if you imagine before that the countries had to agree to recognize that stamp as the time that I entered Singapore or I left China, you know, it kind of blows your mind to say like how many parties you needed to come to agreement to realize this. And then of course, entertainment. I slide myself around a bit here. Entertainment, we think is going to be probably one of the biggest spaces, because typically when you look at new technologies, it's really the entertainment applications of those that kind of get the biggest adoption in the beginning. Today, I guess I've passed that age where I am interested, but I really don't have the time to be able to play some of these games. But you know, if you know CryptoKitties or Axie, I mean, people are making huge amounts of money playing these games online, right? So I think that's going to take over the world, similar to like how my kids today play Minecraft and Roblox. I think blockchain related or games built onto the blockchain are really exciting, especially since then you might actually be making money and trading within a game that could have some real monetary value. And I think underscoring all of this, you know, the idea that personalization or what kind of blockchain applications I use would be useful to my life, and of course how that relates to maybe some currencies that I use or you use, you know, whether it's ringgit or Singapore dollar, US dollar. That's really going to be a huge problem that I don't think has been solved yet, but you know, business and also governments are looking into this quite strongly. So moving forward, you know, a lot of blockchain technology kind of, I don't know if I point whether it reaches this thing. Okay, no. So it's just picture in picture. But if you look on the far side of this slide, a lot of the networks initially were permissionless and public. Everybody could join it, but the scalability was very low because of a lot of restrictions around, you know, whether there's eKYC, whether there's cybersecurity risk, and so it moves towards, you know, kind of like the bottom right of the slide, where you see that a lot of networks and protocols require you to at least identify yourself. So you get permission to do certain things on those networks. And then because of the higher degree of trust that is available across the network, because people are who they say they are, it can be much more scalable much more quicker, right? The second part of this is the kind of the strategy that companies and maybe even countries will take when you have very strong regulatory standards and regulatory action by the countries or their agencies. Then you tend to have probably where in countries like Malaysia, where and I think almost every country in Southeast Asia is where market dominance is actually very low, right? So you tend to see that they will move slowly and then kind of be more cautious in the step. But where once market dominance or market penetration becomes higher, then it kind of changes, right? Ideally, and this is just an ideal world case, and I don't think there's a single country in the world that has this, where the regulatory barriers are very low, and then the market really wants to use all of these products. You have you have where the leadership positions are, and I think leadership positions for a lot of protocols are not really tied to any geography. It's really how important, influential the Bitcoin or Ethereum type movements are, right? So who's leading that just virtual collective of people? But in most cases, we think that countries are going to become followers, right? Somebody has to prove it somewhere in an unregulated space, and then somebody else maybe has to kind of prove to that country's regulators that it's safe to do it within this permissioned area within the country, and then you'll have a follower mentality. So I think this space is really very, very risky if you want to be first mover advantage. But if you can move second fast, I think you can become eventual winners in that space, right? In countries like Malaysia or even Indonesia, I personally see that large corporate companies, right, have to lead the way, because that's where a lot of people trust the brands. So why does it make sense for us to concentrate on Malaysia? Well, because clearly Malaysia is actually very active in at least one part of the blockchain, which is kind of the mining of Bitcoins, right? It's actually quite interesting, and to be honest, quite a surprise for me that, well, Malaysia is the fifth highest contributor to the Bitcoin network in terms of those nodes that verify the transactions. And if you're familiar with the what we call the tokenomics of Bitcoin, if you're the one of the miners and then you're verifying blocks, you also get paid in Bitcoins as a reward for doing that work. So there is an argument that there is probably a large group of Malaysians out there who have a lot of BTC now because they've been mining a lot, right? And I think that's quite interesting. And clearly Malaysia in the region is leading this kind of mining space. But it also means lots of guys have lots of money when BTC prices have gone up. Okay, so when we look at the local industry and then what can be done, and I'm totally aware of the time, so I'm going to try to kind of move this along quickly so that we can open it up for a bit of Q&A. I already saw some questions in the groups. When you kind of look at the blockchain space of what can create real impact and what's feasible to build, really three spaces kind of hit out at you, which is the yellow, orange, and blue dots, right? Financial services, I think that's a no-brainer. Like you think you can have more efficient access to bank and financial products. The public sector, of course, because a lot of these countries in the region, there's a huge dependence on government policy, right? They're not totally free markets in that sense, but you can really transform a lot of government services and public sector kind of policies with using blockchain. And of course, technology, media, and telecoms is another space, because naturally the people who are sitting in those spaces are more technically savvy, and that's probably, you would expect to transact in a cryptocurrency or use a blockchain application on your technology media before you kind of step into a paddy field and expect some sort of blockchain application there. So I think naturally those areas are the natural fits, but we looked into it deeper, right? And then what we realized is, okay, well, if you look at the impact first and then see whether the impact will change the revenue of the industry or the cost associated with running those businesses in the industry, whether it will attract new capital and then have social impact across what you try to build on specifically blockchain type solutions, then you can expand the list, right? Healthcare, obviously, because of the COVID pandemic, and Malaysia uses blockchain to register your identity for the national vaccination program, right? And then you look at retail space, people would change, a lot of businesses want to accept some sort of cryptocurrency or transact in kind of a more immediate medium. And I think this is a huge opportunity here, because because of the pandemic, people expect now to pay contactless, and paying with your card is great, but you can also build that transaction onto the blockchain, which is very different than maybe 5 years ago, where majority of people expected to pay with a cash bill. Okay, and of course, utilities is a huge space because a lot of energy and utility networks now are already built on some sort of digital platform. So to take that and kind of monitor and also monetize a lot of the transactions between the different players, there's a huge impact to the industry there, right? But when you kind of superimpose that onto how feasible it would be to do, I think it's not a surprise that you drop the public sector first, right? Because it's actually very, very difficult to do. It's a huge organization. Technical competency or technical knowledge within the public sector is very, very low relative to kind of private sector. So a lot of the applications kind of, they become more like marathons. You have to build them bit by bit slowly. And so you may not be able to have enough momentum moving forward, right? And then you kind of see that financial services also very, very regulated space. So you kind of notice you have to drop that, but you have to play in very specific applications within financial services so that you don't contravene with the existing kind of regulations. So which is why for us, we started looking at a few opportunities in the space that I think are doable within the next few years, and we're already talking to various parties kind of to realize them. Number one, in the retail sector, 91% of all what we call stable coins, and those are kind of coins which are backed by a physical or a non-cryptocurrency asset. So for example, stable coins, 91% of them are backed or pegged to the US dollar, right? This is a huge problem for a country like Malaysia because our day-to-day retail transactions are not in US dollar. So if you use this kind of solutions, you always have this underlying Forex risk to the US dollar, right? I just want to say here that number one, the USD Tether, right, is always in the top 5 of the highest traded volumes of any day in the cryptocurrency trading world. But number two, there is no agreement with the government of the United States or the Federal Reserve, in this case, their central bank, that they accept the USDT or USD Tether as the cryptocurrency representation of the US dollar, right? And number three, there is no digital ringgit yet, right? So there is, in the whole region, there's only a digital Cambodian, what we call a CBDC, a central bank digital coin, right, which is recognized by the government. But in almost every other market, similar to like what I just described with the US, you have a coin that's pegged or backed by the fiat currency, but it's not actually honored by the country itself. So this space to create a ringgit stablecoin has various trade-offs. But if you look in the region, Indonesia has built a few proof of concepts of stablecoins. The Philippines is also toying with the idea of CBDC. Korea probably is leading the space of actually creating, like if you look up CKRW, right? So they're probably really leading the space of transforming the existing payments or digital payments industry into one that rides on a stable coin. Okay, sorry, and actually in this retail space, one of the biggest, and this is for those of you who may be exploring to build a company around there, right? If you imagine today, if there was no pandemic, right? And then you decide to go on holiday with your girlfriend to Bali from Malaysia, you might decide to fly AirAsia and you might decide to stay in the Hard Rock Hotel Bali, right? And you buy this transaction or you buy this holiday on something like Traveloka or Expedia. Now, what happens to that money once you transfer is that Traveloka, for example, let's just say it's Traveloka, they receive that money within their operational account in Malaysia because you've transacted through a Malaysian payment gateway. Part of that money has to go to AirAsia, and then later you would find out that they actually have to prepay AirAsia, so there's a lot of money that has to be advanced to their airline networks. And then some of the money has to leave the Malaysian operational account to the Traveloka Indonesia operational account. And then once it arrives there, which is typically takes a few days, then they have to transfer part of that money to the Hard Rock Hotel Bali and lots of other players and agents in between, right? Now, all of this happens hundreds of thousands, if not millions of times a week, right? And the amount that they then lose out because the transfer is very, very slow, and they can't afford to do it seamlessly, is something that smart contracts and stablecoins can solve. So that when the transaction is there and it's true, the money goes out to the different players very, very quickly, and then you know, essentially the Hard Rock Hotel or AirAsia doesn't have to wait for so many days for your holiday to Bali to be kind of in their books. So you can see that you can save platforms and players within that platform huge amounts of money, and then they can be much more efficient in their business. So number two is kind of touches what I can share before. You know, if you look at the Malaysian context, 42 billion houses are now probably more. Residential properties have been unsold. 170,000 commercial units are also unsold. Generally, people have taken out a lot more loans to buy homes and committed for a longer time. So now they probably don't have a big pot of money to pay the down payment for the next home. And GDP, and of course the rate at which banks have loaned to people for effectively mortgages is much higher than what they have loaned overall. So we're in the space where I think there's a lot of property, and then there are just not enough individual people that can buy the entire property on their own. So if you look at the tokenization of those assets and allowing many people to buy a home or many people to buy a commercial property, and then again using blockchain so that those people who share the ownership don't have to worry about each other, and then they will get their portion of the rental or the yield from the asset, then there's a huge opportunity in there for blockchain, right? The third is really in the media sector. If you kind of look at the NFT space globally, because it's a big trend now with people selling his piece of art or digital art for just under $70 million. You have regional celebrities like Red Hong Yi or influencers like Red Hong Yi or Luna Maya selling. Red Hong Yi just kind of sold her NFT of a plate that she made, and then Luna Maya sold her profile picture recently on Binance. So if you take that space and then you can project it out to other influencers and also other use cases like sports people, or even kind of like raising money for reforestation, right? Then a lot of these tangible assets could be funded by NFTs, and then people don't really have to worry whether or not they actually own the rights over those things that are claimed, because the marketplaces make sure that those are always kind of protected, right? The next is, if you look at the utility sector, Malaysia and many countries in Southeast Asia, we start moving towards greener, almost sustainable methods of energy generation. And when you do that, you effectively are reducing the amount of carbon that you push into the ozone, right? And of course, you have lots of rainforest acreage in Southeast Asia. And if you use something like carbon credits to kind of become the currency in this space, then you could tokenize a lot of these projects and then basically fundraise and at the same time make it tradable between different investor groups, all by using carbon credits tokenized on top of a blockchain protocol. So we think that what this will avail is huge, right? If you look at the clean energy sector, this will also allow you to trade energy produced, or rather, some sort of derivative on top of that. And this will be a tremendous market for anybody sitting along the equator, because you have a huge amount of solar irradiance, and you can produce lots of energy without kind of chopping trees, or maybe reducing the amount of trees that you chop. So on both sides, you'll be able to make lots of money, right? So I hope a lot of the MBA graduates kind of try to pursue this sector. Okay, and then I think just in closing, probably the biggest opportunity that we see in Southeast Asia is something that starts from outside Southeast Asia, which is China. And I think this is even more meaningful because I believe your parent university is based in China. So China is fairly dominant in the world in terms of trade. If China adopts a standard, and because China has already invested for a long time into the One Belt One Road initiative and have multiple ports which are within their global network of logistics, whatever they use will probably set the precedence of what other people have to use within that value chain. So we're really excited to be kind of entering into partnership with the Chinese government to kind of develop the Singapore blockchain, or rather the international extension of that, because it looks like China is developing an insular standard. So I think right now today, everybody's only looking at the fact that China's clamping on cryptocurrency, but what's also happening, I wouldn't even say the other side, but in the same room, is that China's developing their own standards and then their own decentralized applications. And for big trading partners or rather trading partners who are dependent on China, like us, whatever they use will kind of dictate what we can do. So so that's I think huge, and then that's probably the biggest use case of all stable coins, which is to kind of move money within the different trade routes and trade partners. So you know, if that's something that you're interested in, definitely look out for this. Yeah. So in closing, we think the possibilities are endless, right? But the opportunities are unique in every market. We're looking at huge projects which have huge international addressable markets, but somehow there's a rationale why you can build it out of Malaysia or Southeast Asia, and then work closely with regulators and in all the spaces to try to make it possible. So on that note, I just want to thank the university for having me. And as a promise in the beginning, those of you who are graduating, or maybe some of you are already out there in the job market, send me an email if anything that I shared with you today is interesting. We're working with lots of various partners for a lot of these projects, and we're always on the lookout for like incredible talent, right? So there could be you, and also if you spot an opportunity that we haven't talked about here today, and you want to build that out with us, also just send me an email, share with me like what it's like, and then we'll try to see how we can move forward on that. So thank you so much, and yeah. I think I timed it with 5 minutes left for the Q&A.
No worries, Dr. Fazli. Thank you very much. Yeah, due to the time limitation, I think maybe you can take one question for now, and other questions we will be discussing it in the forum later.
For sure, yeah, I'll be around, and then I think we can dive deep into the forum. But yeah, I mean, let's have that one question.
Hi, Dato. Maybe I'm given the chance to ask the only question. Right, Dato, my name is Arumugam, and it's a great talk on blockchain. I think very insightful. My question is that why is it Bank Negara is taking time to approve this blockchain transaction, although they do not really stem on the institutions that conduct the blockchain. So as at January 2021. I noted that blockchain in Malaysia seems to be not really given a green light from Bank Negara. Maybe because I think they want to have exert some control over the blockchain transaction.
Okay. Well, thanks, Arumugam. Like that's a great question, right? I think to preface that, what we have to understand is blockchain itself is not regulated in Malaysia. Okay, so blockchain is no different than just another kind of technology tool that you use to make your next company or your next application. What is regulated in Malaysia are two things. Number one is cryptocurrencies, right? So cryptocurrencies in Malaysia are classified as securities, and so that falls under the Securities Commission. This is the situation in Malaysia. If you go to Indonesia, cryptocurrencies are classified as commodities, so it's regulated with kind of a different set of laws or the treatment there, right? But I believe what you're talking about is the second set of regulations, which is Bank Negara regulates basically money, yeah. So Bank Negara doesn't regulate the entire blockchain space, but specifically in use cases where it involves money, and specifically the ringgit. So in that regard, I think, of course, if you're sitting in private industry, you want them to be able to make their minds up faster. What we do know now, and then I don't think I can talk on the stuff that has not been announced publicly, but publicly has been announced that Bank Negara is not going to support a ringgit stablecoin by an external party. They want to look at CBDC, or central bank digital coin, as the de facto standard stablecoin. Now, whether this is the right or wrong decision, I think only time will tell. If you look at the USA right now, they also do not adopt a CBDC based on the US dollar, and they also do not want to recognize USDT, USDC, and all that as a national or cryptocurrency equivalent of their national sovereign currency. So what Malaysia is doing is saying, basically, the central bank will come up with the de facto standard stablecoin for the ringgit fiat, and the central bank is going to trial this in the wholesale banking sector. That means you and I probably will not be using it, but the CIMBs and Maybanks will be using and transacting together on this at the wholesale level, and then these banks will also be transacting with the central bank with this digitalized version of the ringgit. So I think that's as much as they have kind of made clear. But I do agree with you that, you know, there is space there for experiments to be done outside the wholesale side. And I think that's something that if you're interested in, you should reach out to Ben Negara, you know, or maybe let us know and we can reach out to Ben Negara together with you to kind of trial some of these applications.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you, Dato. That was a good response.
Yeah, I mean, good luck to you. You know, I myself hope that you know that the first ringgit stablecoin would have been born yesterday. So I'm looking forward to somebody who wants to kind of really take this on seriously. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for the question, and thank you, Dr. Fazli, for the informative knowledge sharing session. We will move on with the next two speakers, and then only we have a Q&A session. So, but then please keep engaging, let the questions come into the chat, and we will address them later in the forum session.
Moving on, allow me to welcome our next distinguished speaker, Mr. Rene Bernard. Rene caught an interest in the Bitcoin and blockchain more than 5 years ago, and riding on this passion, he co-founded LuxTech in 2017, where he's now also the Chief Executive Officer. LuxTech focuses on cryptocurrency and blockchain technology adoption within the existing economy. LuxTech is now highly valued in Southeast Asia, and besides spending his time exploring the application of blockchain technology, Rene also regularly shares his insights in the national and global events. As a founding president of Access Blockchain Association Malaysia, Rene often provides consultation for professionals and academia in Malaysia. So here we have a great speaker who is a practitioner of the industry, as well as a contributor in the academic engagement. And today, Rene will enlighten us with his topic, blockchain, the invisible technology that's changing the world, industrial non-fintech applications. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Rene Bernard.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, so I learned something. I'm sorry, Dato Fazli, that during your talk, I did a small little other task, which was to learn how to do this overlay. Really cool. So I learned it, and I'll try to do the same thing because it was really cool. So I share my screen with my slides. Then I try to fire this up, and then I want to look as cool as you did. Whether this works, let me try preparing slides. Do I look as cool as Dato? Does it work?
Yeah,
nice.
Just as cool.
Oh, very good, very good. Yes, awesome. Nice. Okay. Great, thank you. Okay, fine. Yes. So as I chose this title, "Invisible Technology Changing the World," I thought about that technologies usually need to just work, right? And we, as the people using it, we don't really want to know how exactly does this combustion engine in the car work and what happens when I shift gears or something. It just needs to work, and then some engineers, let them crack their heads how to do the details about it. But anyhow, we now in this talk, we are maybe in between the users and the engineers, right? So I want to touch on this, the invisible technology. We have to be aware that it exists and what it does, and some of us will become the experts, but not all of us. So myself, I'm actually one of the people who clicked on the airplane in the icebreaker session. I'm a foreigner. I'm already for several years here in Malaysia. I'm locally married. Locally, as in Southeast Asia local. My wife is another foreigner over here, but from German perspective, locally. I'm an entrepreneur by heart. I never actually worked for anybody in my life. I always ran my own businesses, from e-commerce to cybersecurity, and then in the end to this LuxTech startup business. And I must say, thanks to Malaysia and thanks to the Malaysian government initiatives around MDEC, MITE, even MAGIC, actually, because I'm an alumni of MAGIC programs, which is a startup incubation initiative from the Malaysian government. Well, hard to say, but I think it used to be. I think they are kind of maybe shutting down. I don't know. But it was very nice, and LuxTech is an alumni of that. Besides that, I'm even active in a non-profit over here in Malaysia with more than 100 members. We are advocating for the responsible use of blockchain technology beyond only cryptocurrency. So table of content, what I wanted to talk about, what's blockchain? I think I'll skim through this quite fast because Dato did a good job on that one. So I'll more talk about the middle path, the middle part here, the non-financial use cases, which goes a bit beyond cryptocurrencies, and then what we at Luxtech, a Cyberjaya-based startup, are doing so that we can inspire you a bit about other things that blockchain is doing. Hopefully, that invisible technology part that you at least are aware of it. Okay, but then I wanted to slot in this one here. We did this Menti survey in the beginning of this session, and number 3, government, right? Greatest impact, government. I just want to mention before I come now to my points according to the table of contents, this point of government. Yes, they would be impacted. But then blockchain technology, decentralization, and government being the ultimate centralization, right? We have a capital, we have a president, a prime minister, and like these things in governments. It's actually kind of a split, an opposite thing. Blockchain technology with the decentralization and even helping to create trust where there is no trust and no centralized body. And governments usually fight for being the ultimate party who you trust. Government says so, so we have to do it. They make the laws. What are we? Who are we to say? So I just want to have you all think about this nicely. Like, yes, government impacted, yes, but maybe not in the to that effect that they will be deploying blockchain technology and saying, oh, we know that we can't be trusted, and in that sense, we are putting blockchain technology out so that you can trust us now. I don't think governments will admit that. So interesting, very interesting topic, this one. Very interesting question too. So now, what's blockchain? Decentralized system for recording information. I won't go too much into the technical details here. There's many nice YouTube videos about this. What's a block? What's a chain? And how are they chained together? And the most important part here is that information, once you put it in, it's there and you can't change it anymore. And there is a network of contributors to these blockchain platforms which contribute to this immutable ledger facility. So again, you please at your own time watch the right YouTube videos to see what is blockchain technology. But the last bullet point here, blockchain is not limited to the financial sector only. That's relevant. And not and even talking about Bitcoin. Bitcoin is not only relevant to the financial sector, even though you know, you have Bitcoin as the coin, as a token of value, and you have the Bitcoin blockchain network, which can be used and is being used intensely for many other use cases too. Maybe I can later touch more on that too. So benefits of blockchain, again, this one I can skip this. This was mentioned in the last half an hour very nicely, actually. Next one here, non-financial use cases. That is just an inspiration and some examples on the application use cases beyond cryptocurrency. Identity management, right? That can be good for government and for people. But even about people, that's something where you can have an identity not linked to your government identity, right? There's now, it's coming more and more into the wild. It's getting more and more popular that you can have avatars. You know that from the mobile games, not mobile, not mobile games, or only the game world, right? The esports world. You don't need to be John Smith in that game. You can be whatever name you give yourself and whatever avatar. And this will come into more and more a world where you can have as one physical person, perhaps 2 or 3 identities, right, in the virtual world, and you might need to be required to prove that you are that person. So that's something where some of these identities you might link to your physical real identity or not. Very interesting things come here, and the blockchain technology can help you to truly create your and secure your digital identity. And healthcare is another thing, healthcare records, traceability. Various companies around the world are working on e-prescription. You know, even now the MySejahtera in Malaysia, there was some announcements that the vaccination certificates and things like that will be supported by blockchain technology to create the trusted source of data more than only a company, because there are fake vaccination certificates. There are, where there is a loophole, there will always be some people abusing that. And the blockchain technology allows us to really have a secured system which cuts down possibilities of all these fraud and attack vectors a lot. So voting mechanisms is another one. Some countries of the world already started doing voting in environments which cannot be tampered with. Like actually, as being a foreign citizen, for me, it was a completely new thing to see in Malaysia that people coming back from voting centers, they have dirty fingers. They have a finger in ink, right? I never saw that before, but in Malaysia I saw it, and then I see Indonesia similar. Interesting. So that was new for me. That this is a way how Malaysia, Indonesia create trust, right? Avoid abuse of the system, and so you can trust that person did not vote before. Okay, maybe in Germany is another interest in doing voting fraud, so I never noticed that over there, but some other countries do it on a technical level. It's possible technologically to actually have your identity only one time voting, and that's it, right? And it's across the system. Okay, I think quite clear that use case. Proof of insurances is another thing. You have insurance fraud. Even it was in Malaysia, I think in the state of Penang, we heard about some fraud cases where the cause of death or time of death of people is being manipulated with just in order to settle the life insurance things first before the person actually on paper died, things like this. So many interesting things which can be secured and avoid counterfeit here. NFT marketplaces, yes, Fazli mentioned this one, NFTs, right? NFTs is something I'm very interested, but even a bit skeptical towards. This is something where you have something else on the blockchain network, and you can have marketplaces for that, using the blockchain technology to avoid central parties. Let me just mention for NFTs, because I don't come back to that later, one thought. This NFT, some of you or most of you would know already, it's usually about artwork or even music pieces and this. You can own them in the digital realm. And just my co-founder of LuxTag, he skeptical towards this digital collectible of artwork. He said that an NFT, as it's now being traded and promoted, might actually not be much more than the digital representation of a picture of a beach mansion, for example, right? And how much can that be worth, right? The beach mansion, really, you can go in, you can enjoy a nice view and stay there and something. The picture, you can maybe hang it to your wall, enjoy a nice picture of something, and then you have a digital representation of the picture of the mansion. So he said that the usability or the value of that is something completely different to the item itself. That comes only until there is no link nicely established. Because if you were the owner of that digital representation of that beach mansion, which is linked to the digital door lock or, the scheduling for using that mansion, something, there we bring value in. Yeah, like timeshare, ownership of vacation properties, things like this. These are things which are very exciting and it's happening right now. And we need to look into all these possible use cases. Very interesting, but it is very, in its simple only form of owning something on, not even on paper, but on digital representation of a paper. Let's not be too overly excited about only that fact. Anyhow, now the last little one here, asset tracking, anti-counterfeit, user engagement. That one links to what we actually do at LuxTag. We focus, I put a full slide on this one, blockchain for asset tracking and protection, because assets, now looking at assets, can be valuable items, right, you own. For example, LuxTag, the name comes from luxury product tagging, right? And you would like to know that this is a real thing, or who's the owner, an ownership registry or something like that, where you can record transactions and the state changes, like it's damaged, it's repaired, ownership transferred or something, from creation to a deployment to disposal, like even life cycle management of products can be handled with blockchain. And this promotes integrity and transparency in the asset tracking and prevents, obviously, any tampering, yes, changes to the recorded transactions. And then it allows the users to track and trace the records of ownership. That's very interesting even for warranty claims of electrical appliances and things like that. multiple parties can work together on one shared database. Blockchain-based asset tracking has multiple advantages, and the biggest one is its enhanced security and reliability, or enhanced record transparency and completeness. That's actually the most important points here. So now, one issue here is what seems too good to be true, often maybe even is. Right? And that's something what I would like to mention as an important point in this talk. You followed so far the fascination from the previous speaker and maybe even my enthusiasm about this technology, and it can do so much. But when you put garbage in to an IT system, you'll get garbage out of an IT system. And this means that we need to be damn sure about our business processes and the participation of the various players who interact with the system. And this is something what is usually the complicated part. You can give people a wonderful system, but if they don't see sufficient value in using it and the value for them, right? Not, oh, I should use the system so that the manufacturers, shareholders have better visibility of, I don't care. I want to have value for me. And then I use the system to ensure participation. So this is something what we, as the enthusiasts and as the technopreneurs, let's say we struggle with. We have an issue with this because we are the technology people. Well, I'm sorry to my co-speakers if maybe that's not true for all of us, but I assume that we are more technology people than the industry experts for warehouse management, for marketing, for consumer engagement, for customer behavior psychology and these things. We are the technology people, and we need to somehow find that overlap and the link to make things happen. And even the businesses must adapt business processes to our technology thoughts and ideas. Would need to do that, but for that they need to be motivated enough that it's worth it. So it's something where so far usually we need to adapt as the technology people to the business processes, and that makes us learn about these processes. So what we now at this Malaysian startup Luxtech are doing is that we are countering fraud and fakes, provide business insights for manufacturers of products or distributors, and provide customer engagement solutions. And our two main use cases is brand tag and the eScroll solution, and whereby I have mentioned Luxtag comes from luxury product tagging. We had started on that general idea to do luxury product warranty cards and repair orders and these things supported through blockchain technology, but it's very hard to get a foothold in that sector. We have met with these, well, arrogant Swiss big brands, right? And they meet with that Malaysian startup from Cyberjaya, where they probably 5 minutes before the meeting found on a map where Malaysia actually is, and then even where Cyberjaya is. So we had meetings with them. But then they are considering, thanks for the idea, okay, maybe we might do it in-house, or yeah. So it never really worked out that we worked with the large, big luxury companies, only with smaller, aspiring luxury brands like the 1,000, 2,000 products per year companies. We have some contracts in that direction, but the really big ones didn't really work out. So we went into sectors, we pivoted as a startup to use the same concept for general product security and product engagement, and allow brands with brand tag to create their own serialized manufactured products using our system and a view for the manufacturers. And then as an output, they get a tag, which can be a QR code tag they print on the packages, or an NFC tag for the modern smartphones to just hover over. And then the end consumer can engage with a digital blockchain account of that product and see where does it come from, see further information, can engage with the manufacturer, and create all these benefits of anti-counterfeit, business insights, and customer engagement solutions. And eScroll is for educational use, because we have lots of fake credentials in the academic sector. And even now, with the coming lifelong learning and micro-credentials, it's even more important to capture all your achievements in one trusted account. And just recently, we started cooperating with a few other larger players, not only Malaysian, but even overseas, in the field of the Internet of Education, to build an eScroll 2.0 with many more features where you as a person attach all your authenticated records under your account, and all this is secured and trusted through the blockchain technology behind it. So here we have one slide about that blockchain-based solution called BrandTag. Provides brand owners with the easiest way to prove their product's authenticity by giving each of its item a unique ID. And that means that it's the product serialization. One glass of, I like Nutella, right? I always use Nutella. One glass of Nutella might look like the neighbor in the shelf, but it's a different one. So that one glass has one number and the other one has another number. And one customer scans this, another customer scans that. And the manufacturer would know about it. Possibly even to the detail of, maybe linked to Google Analytics once you scan the things, male, female, age group, who bought, how many glasses of Nutella, and all these things. So that is only possible when we have unique IDs, and our system does exactly that as a software as a service solution, and improves experience for consumers and brand owners. Let me mention shortly, I put up here FB and Halal, FNB. FNB, food and beverage, and Halal. Especially in Malaysia, we had this meat scandal with Halal fake certifications, and there were people involved in doing this fake credentialing for the products over many years, right? And that is something where, as I said earlier, where there are loopholes and where there are people involved and it's not covered fully by processes and automation, well, these things can happen. Yeah, and even if we had the greatest IT systems and greatest blockchain technology, we need to make sure the business processes are safe so that something like this cannot happen. We have makers and checkers and other pair of eyes. Pair of eyes can be automated pair of eyes or human pairs of eyes to check before we secure things using a blockchain technology. We're working with some Malaysian experts in this halal logistics sector for exactly this use case. And the interest is that we should make sure that one cow has 2 shoulders and 4 legs, right? And that can be made sure through this aggregation, deaggregation, to avoid cows having who knows how many shoulders. So that's something we can do, and we are right now programming solutions like that. So let me go to the next slide here. BrandTag as a solution, yes, this is the main 4 things what we do: prevent counterfeit, the product transparency. You can access a wealth of information about the product. Where does this milk powder come from? We can display information about the cows and the fields and the temperature at the farm at the moment when you scan, and all these things is possible through engagement with the end consumer. And marketing, that's obviously a marketing channel. Consumer engagement, and that's all linked into BrandTag as a solution. So this is already my almost last slide, 15 of 16. I just want to explain something about this one, that together we can use these innovation technologies to make the world a more honest place. And that's actually the vision of Luxtag, that through cooperation, collaboration, and the use of blockchain technology, with its business processes and participation of the users, we can create a more honest place because we close loopholes and avoid adversaries to damage our supply chain, our interests, or the interests of our customers. And I have underlined these words here: fin, fintech, tech fin, non-fin. This one might be a bit confusing for you, but because I have another few minutes, I would like to explain on these few terms here. Like fin, like financial sector, we have talked about it in the previous session, or very well. You are all Bitcoin experts explaining how Satoshi Nakamoto founded or invented it. So fin is the financial use cases, right? And fintech is what we hear a lot about, financial sector technology. But that's actually something where the financial sector comes first, and technology builds upon it and improves on it. So fintech, that's the idea of that. Then there's even the term which came out a year or 2 years ago, techfin, which is actually technology first, and then let's build the financial solutions on top of it. We are right now with this Bitcoin and blockchain cryptocurrency solutions somewhere in between fintech and techfin. Means like improving financial world matters around us through technology. And we have this great technology. So what financial things can we build around it? That's the TechFin, coming from technology and building financial around it. And that's very interesting things happening in this TechFin sector about this decentralized finance, how actually you can use blockchain technology powered algorithms. We can use them to replace banking, to not only replace the central banking, which Bitcoin essentially does, but to replace even traditional banking with loans, deposits, collaterals, leveraged transactions, options. You can have various different representations of banking features in a TechFin environment, which is called DeFi at the moment. Very interesting sector. Perhaps you would want to later find the right YouTube videos on DeFi. And the last one is non-fin, like the non-fin financial, right? Non-financial solutions, which is what we at LuxTech focus on. And just to mention, we try to be sneaky as a LuxTech startup and use the non-financial sector because it's much less regulated. We are not annoying Bank Negara or Securities Commission with whatever we do here in Cyberjaya. We just do our things. We work with manufacturers, consumers. We create web applications, blockchain platforms, all this stuff. But we don't need to hassle with the financial regulators. That's why we chose this for our business. And I think that this is the true invisible future innovation which blockchain brings, the non-fintech matters. And it needs to be invisible so that the people easily can participate and use the system and for their benefit, for the benefit of the manufacturers, brands, and the overall world, to create a more honest place. It needs to be an invisible technology. Okay, last slide. Okay, if anybody wants to reach out, you check out the Brandtech.io. You can check out the LuxTech.io website and see what we are doing. And another thing, because I'm aware we are talking to many students, right? It's not only academics and lecturers here. We at LuxTech, we have openings for various internship positions, even business development, marketing support, technical positions. Please do reach out to us. You can email me directly and I'll forward to our HR colleagues, or you directly email HR@luxtech.io and CC me. Say that you are interested because of the talk I gave on that beautiful Saturday. Please contact us. We are very interested. I think so far we never had any graduates or students from Xiamen University with us, so I'm very excited to hopefully see the first mutual support on that direction. And we are even hiring full-timers at the moment. It's not hard in this pandemic time. No, it's quite hard in this pandemic time to get the right talent locally here. So that's why I even abuse sessions like these to call for the good people to come over. Yes. So I'm a bit ahead of my time. I think I still have 3 more minutes, but I think we, I don't want to stretch this one right now. Maybe I can give back to the MC first, or if one question at this moment. I saw something pop up in the chat here, but then while talking, not easy for me to read the chat messages.
Yeah.
Please.
Thank you so much, Renee, for your wonderful sharing. And also, ladies and gentlemen, this is indirectly a job advertisement here. So grab your own opportunity, make the best use out of it. Renee, allow me to just give you a teaser of one question from the crowd. Is that from Melvin, that what type of digital ID is being used by LuxTech? Is it the barcode type or QR type, or even the long blockchain type of code is being used here?
Okay, good. So ID is actually 2 different things here. We have IDs for the touch points, we call it. Touch point number 1 is the manufacturer who creates something, right? Who creates an object. And then we have the touch points, distribution, logistics, retailers, or even the end consumer. All of them can or even can be anonymous, but they can have an ID so that we can represent in the flow when an object flows through the different stages, which is in the LuxTech system captured by a database account and a blockchain account, which we link together, and the web application taps into that. But that one is usually you log into an application with your login credentials, and then the system handles for you the linking of a blockchain ID and your user account throughout an email, for example. But the other ID is the unique object ID, right? And the unique object ID at LuxTech is an ID which is a blockchain account. For certain printing applications, like printing QR codes, this is a bit lengthy. It might have more than 60 characters. And on QR codes, to maintain good readability, we want to have short data sets. So we, and another thing is that for QR code readability, without an app installed in your phone, we even need to encode it as a website address. So when you scan it, it directly opens HTTP address / and then the blockchain ID. So we then, for this URL matter, we shorten into a shortened version, which opens a URL. And then from there, this shortened one is linked to the full length blockchain ID. If we use NFC tags, or sometimes we use QR plus NFC, like a QR printed on top of a radioactive sticker, or active through radio, doesn't mean radioactive, NFC sticker, QR on top, then that NFC can have the full length there and the shortcode. But it's always linked back to a full blockchain account which you interact with. That's about the ID. And then in that digital account, in that blockchain account, there can be color of the item, manufacture date, best before date in food items. All these things stored there as simple JSON objects. That's how we handle the data inside these blockchain accounts.
Thank you, Renee. It's quite a black box of challenging issues there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be taking a short break right now. And after the break, our third speaker, AK, will be speaking about blockchain for the enterprises. And there will be a forum session after that for all the speakers to address all the questions that we have compiled from the chat box. All right. So right now it's 3 o'clock. So we'll see you again. Stay tuned and we'll see you at 3:05. Yeah. So 3:05 we'll be back here. Thank you so much and see you again later.
XMUM University MBA started in April. When MBA was introduced in China, it was one of the first introduced in China in 1980s. So we started here this year in 2019. If you ask me what is the USP, what is so special about our MBA program, then you actually have to ask the students. When the students come to see us, the first thing that they want, they said they want to study in MBA. They just want to have a certificate, you know. But then when they study with us, they can see that we are so different. So when I ask the students, sometimes I see them on the corridor, sometimes I see them personally, and I ask them, what's your experience with us? And they say it's the human touch. When people ask me, right, why should they study MBA in XMUM University in Malaysia? One of the reasons is because we are a gateway to China. A lot of people they are finding ways because they know that the economic development is in China. So when the economic development is in this part of the world, so people are looking for opportunity. So we don't want our students to learn on silo and having a one-track mind. So what is important for the student is actually to have a holistic point of view, to think holistically. Therefore, our MBA is designed as such. So in holistic, we look at three things, right? One is our formal learning. Second is the informal learning. And third is the non-formal learning. For the formal learning, it's everything that students learn in class. So in class, you will have a facilitator who is the lecturer, and the lecturer will be in the class and be teaching the students. And in the class, we actually use a pedagogy approach where students learn from each other, and we call it as the interdependent learning. And the second one, informal learning. For the informal learning, students learn from outside the class. So outside the class, we complement the students' learning by organizing a lot of talks and activities. For example, talks on big data, talks on artificial intelligence, talks on smart city, for example. So, and how we relate that to the 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, or the 17 SDGs. That's very important. Lastly, we also have a non-formal learning. In a non-formal learning, students learn outside the class, outside the university. So outside the university, we cannot discount that students learn a lot too. For example, when they go for training, when they give training, when the students go traveling, when the students have hobbies, I'm sure they learn a lot of things as well. Can that be applicable to their career? I think that's very important. So we link up the formal, informal, and non-formal learning to form a holistic learning experience for the students.
XMUM MBA program provides us a safe environment for us to learn, relearn, and unlearn. The non-judgmental classroom allows us from different industry or different generations to interact without boundaries. I think we gain a lot of insightful experience and opinions from us, which is thanks for the diversity of our classroom.
My greatest achievement during my MBA study is that I successfully entered to the regional business case competition that held in Indonesia through applying the knowledge that I gained from my study. I get to learn how to manage my time well in order to complete the competition's tasks, revision for exam, and my coursework at the same time. I also get to learn priceless management knowledge and skills from my fellow classmates, teaching staff, professors, and business people with management knowledge, and keep challenging myself.
Hi everyone, welcome back. I hope everyone is in at the moment. If you are, please give me a sign either in chat, type 1, or show me an emoji that you're still here. If not, I might be talking to the wall. All right. Okay, I can see everybody is still in. All right. So welcome back everyone. Thank you again for your attention for the first half session of our networking day. I hope you're all not too disappointed as Ziyi, our previous MC, had to rush for her vaccination appointment. I sincerely hope that everyone here will have gotten or will be getting your vaccination soon as well. We will now proceed with our third speaker of the day, Mr. Tan Ai Kiok, or as he likes to be addressed himself, AK. AK was nominated as Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year 2015. He is also known as the Apps Man, apps as in application, okay? AK is the CTO of Doc2Us, which was created to digitally connect patients with doctors. Doc2Us has successfully scaled up its operations amid the COVID-19 health crisis. The company handled a surge in medical queries and expanded its network to become the largest e-prescription telemedicine provider in Malaysia today. To further expand on his already very impressive CV, our experienced speaker is the founder and CEO of XMUM Group of Companies, which is an international award-winning software company serving 10 of the Fortune 500 companies. XMUM Studio has developed more than 100 mobile apps and received millions of downloads worldwide. Most impressive considering that it was just in a short span of a 3-year period. Ladies and gentlemen, let us invite Mr. Tan AK to share with us on the topic blockchain for enterprises. Welcome, AK.
All right, thank you, Mike. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is AK from XMUM. So today I would like to share with you blockchain for enterprise. And then my topics will be a bit more on technical. So I also share with you sample smart contracts and also some of the case study on when you should use a blockchain and when you shouldn't, and what kind of blockchains you will use, be it is a public or private blockchains. Private blockchain is really a huge topic. Yeah. And I will also share a bit on the blockchain fundamentals. Despite Dr. Fasti actually did a very good job in explaining blockchains, but I will share a bit more on the technical perspective. So you'll see from a different angle. It's more holistic in this way. Then about myself. So thank you, Mike, for introductions. Yeah. So I'm the president of Malaysia Mobile Developer Associations, and I also run XMUM Studio Group of Companies. And we have about 95 full-time developers in the group. And also I'm one of the MTech Talent Expert Panel and interim CTO for Doc2Us and technical mentor for Magics and so on. So I also feature as one of the 16 notable Malaysian software ninjas that have been doing software development for more than 12 years. Yeah, first one I share a bit on what do we do in terms of the blockchain space. Yeah, the first one is what to you. Yeah, before that, I want to highlight that actually in Malaysia, not much company actually successfully to launch the product in a production environments using blockchain technologies, where LastTech actually did a good job where they have launched this in production as well. So I'm just sharing a bit more others from the blockchain products from our companies. So first one is Vote2You, where we help public listed community to host their AGM online via our blockchain product. Remote participation and voting software. So far, we have helped about 100 public listed community to host their AGM online. Because since the voting result is very sensitive, we want to ensure it is tamper-proof, secure. So that's why we choose blockchain technology for this purpose. And the second case study is election blockchains that we've done it for multimedia universities in 3 campuses concurrently, Cyberjaya, Johor, and also Banaka. Then we also filed patents for these election blockchains back to 2019. And subsequently, also, we have an application called Talk to Us, where we integrated with Hyperledger Fabric blockchain technologies, where you can also find these applications under MySejahtera. We are the only virtual health advisory partners in MySejahtera. Then apart from that, we also have a Blockcord, which is a electronic health records, basically using Hyperledger Fabric technology as well. Then we represent Malaysia to compete in the World Information Congress, that we one of the winner. Then before that, we also launched one of the small crypto exchange called GetCoin app, but we have ceased operations since we didn't get a license with digital asset exchange under security commissions. Then recently, we also won a hackathon organized by Mosty. They are going to deploy this blockchain pin book that we store the kids' vaccination records together with MOH in clinical setting. Then then we also have other blockchain products in the trial run and proof of concept work. So first one is actually a durian tracker that you can basically use blockchain to track whether this durian is coming from which durian farms and the whole supply chains, and whether this is a Busan King or this is a D24. I mean, Malaysia, we can differentiate very well, but not for the foreigners like the China citizen and so on. So the next one is basically a gachapon, and this is basically a virtual pet that we have built. That if you know gachapon is a Japanese word that you will basically get a lucky draw based on algorithm. A lot of time then the players will challenge this gachapon is actually hard-coded. No one can actually win the grand prize. So we are making this gachapon algorithm into a smart contract. So everyone can see this is a real gachapon. If you didn't get it, means you don't have enough luck and so on. So these are the smart contract that we deploy. Then other blockchain initiatives, we also conduct some of the workshops for the university like UMs and also UTMs. Basically, we teach them to build smart contracts in 5 days and so on. So blockchain fundamentals, this is really fundamentals for today. Again, I want to highlight this on a different angle. Then yeah, blockchain doesn't equivalent to Bitcoin. This is a very important concept. So please don't think they are the same. Bitcoin is a use case of blockchains, but blockchain is like a superset of the everything. So when we look into blockchain evaluations, then we see blockchain 1.0 is more like using Bitcoin to do as a digital currency. In blockchain 2.0, we can start to write logic using smart contract, such as we can do an initial coin offering using Ethereum technologies. And in blockchain 3.0, basically we have private blockchains or so-called permission blockchains that we can use it for the industry using Hyperledger Fabric and so on. So Bitcoin is created by Satoshis, then no one knows, and basically there is an important day in blockchain industry called Bitcoin Pizza Day. So someone actually used 10,000 Bitcoin to buy 2 Papa John's pizza. So at today's it's worth hundreds of millions of money. So blockchain is a distributed ledger with consensus algorithm. This sounds a bit technical. So there are 3 keywords that we want to highlight: distributed, ledger, and consensus. So these 3 keywords basically form blockchains. Then the characteristic we have is basically distributed. So what it means is basically it's everywhere instead of just single server. Immutable, so you can't change it. Then if you change anything, that comes with the audit trail, and it's secure because you can't hack it due to all these characteristics. So first time we look into a blockchain ledgers, and as usual, ledgers, what is ledger? Then we'll go and Google. So a ledger means a book of other collection of financial accounts. It's more like financial terms. But what if in the blockchain definitions, ledger essentially is a database, but there are more keywords behind: consensually share and synchronize across network spread and so on. This sounds a bit technical, but for now we just track this is a database. But when we look into this, if ledger equal to database, how does it differ from our other conventional programming like using MySQL, Oracle database and so on? So that's why we call it ledger. We don't call it database. If it's essentially it's also storing informations. So if you compare a conventional database with a blockchain ledger, we can see a conventional database, we have different operations like insert, update, delete that we can use using SQL script. Then in the blockchains, basically we only do insert. If you want to do an update, you have to do another insert. If you do an delete, you also have to do another insert. So which means data is not being replaced. Everything comes with the audit trail. Then this is what we can see from a standard MS SQL database. In a case, if I want to amend something, I can, if I have a write privilege, I can just write a simple SQL script and no one knows what am I doing. So that's the things that we can use blockchain to solve. So if you look into blockchain ledgers, the first one we call it a genesis block. Then from there, each of the block is basically linked to a previous block using a block hash. Later, we'll go through a demo as well. So each of the block basically comes with the data. So this data can be anything. Could be, let's say, a student CGPA results. Could be a land transaction records. And this is your basically your my identity. In a way, is a block number. Parent identity is a parent block numbers. And basically, it comes with a timestamp as well. So in terms of to calculate identity, basically there are different algorithms like the SHA-256, SHA-1, and MD5. So there are different kind of algorithms based on the blockchain technologies. Then if you look into the inputs, there's a A, B, C, D. After a hash algorithm, it will be something else that you can't really recognize. So that depends on what is the hash algorithm, then you have a different output here. So when you talk about chain, it's basically each of the block are connecting with each other using the hash from the previous block. So this is how we look into our blockchains. Then, so why use ledger instead of database? Basically, once data is added, it's impossible to change. Once data is added, you cannot be deleted. So later we also go through a demo. I will demo at one shot. So the first thing we already cover what is ledgers. Then next thing we want to talk about different things, which is ledgers. Basically, it gives us a capability that is immutable. It comes with a history or audit trail. It is very secure. And when we talk about distributed network, so what it means is if those who born in 1980 or 1970s, you will know basically these are different kind of torrents that actually downloads songs, movie, and so on. This is actually a sample of a distributed network. And basically in a distributed network, you are sharing your files, could be FLV files, MP4 files, so that everyone can download from each other. This is what I call a distributed torrent network. But whereas in the distributed ledgers, instead of storing the files and so on, you are basically storing all the data. So each of the block is the data. So you have all this blockchain data in your computers. So when this is so good being a distributor is basically in a centralized, you have a centralized point of failure. So if someone attack this point, then your data is compromised. When you distributed, the hackers have to basically simultaneously attack so many nodes in order to tamper the results. So that's why this is advantageous of being distributed. So we can see in the centralized is one server, distributed is every node have the data. Then in terms of data security in the distributed environment is very secure. So now we see it being a distributed, then it can basically bring you a very high securities. So if you remember, distributed ledgers is about distributed, immutables, history, and secure. So that actually gives you distributed ledgers. But why distributed ledger is not blockchains? Then this is another things that we need to cover. So distributed we have covered is basically many nodes. Ledger is basically block and chains. The last part is a consensus algorithm that will form a complete blockchain definitions. So this consensus, again, if you Google, you will find this fault tolerant mechanism, blah, 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 blah. So this is a bit hard to understand. Then too long didn't read is basically making everyone happy. So how do you ensure every node is happy to ensure the data is with the integrity? So if we look into an example without consensus in the distributed ledgers, what happens is that when you try to add a block, so for example, 2 of the members in the ecosystem doesn't want to add a block inside, but only 3 of them want to add, then this is no consensus algorithm. So the data integrity is not there. Where if you want to make everyone happy, basically we need to have a consensus algorithm. There are different kind of consensus algorithms out there. For example, Bitcoin Ethereum is using proof of work. Then the modern one is normally using proof of stake or other algorithms, which is faster and more energy efficient. So they are proof of work. So when you heard about mining machines and so on, then those are blockchain technologies using proof of works, such as current Bitcoin and Ethereum. Then when we have this consensus algorithm, so the miner say, I found a block. So everyone have a consensus, basically using some algorithms to ensure this block is genuine, and then everyone will add into a network. So that is in a consensus algorithm. if using proof of work, only the miner can make everyone happy. If using other consensus algorithm, then you have other mechanism instead of depending on the miners. But again, proof of work is only one example to make everyone happy. There are other more modern consensus algorithm as well, such as like proof of stake, proof of storage, and so on. So later I will demo a bit on the smart contracts. I will skip this. So the next part is basically a look into the blockchain landscape. So we have these public blockchains such as Ethereum, Monero, Bitcoins, and private blockchains like Ripple's, Hyperledgers, and BitchainDB. Then when we look into big blockchain 2.0, we have Ethereum smart contract, and this smart guy is basically a founder of Ethereum, Vitalik. Then if you go into Ethereum, basically we have the Ether itself, which is powering the whole Ether ecosystem. Then we have wallets that store the Ethers. And also we have Ethereum DApps. DApps stand for decentralized applications. So we can write applications in a decentralized way. So just how we look into blockchains, basically is storing data. But in the Ethereum blockchains, basically it stores the codes. So it comes with the Ethereum virtual machines that can help you to execute the coding. So this Ethereum virtual machines is basically a platform to serve decentralized blockchain applications. You can write coding on top of the virtual machines. And in terms of a testnet, there are different testnet can allow us developers to basically do a testing. Otherwise, you have to spend real money using Ether in order to deploy your applications. So there's a Lobster, Cohen, and also Wrinkeby, different kind of testnet, and using proof of work and proof of authority algorithms, consensus algorithm. So these are also some of the smart contract. Later we'll go through a demo as well. Then the next part I want to quickly share about blockchain technology selections. I think this is one of the important charts. Sometimes you don't need blockchain for everything because sometimes it's just overkill and not cost efficient. So if you want to know your application need a blockchain or not, first thing you ask yourself whether you need a database. If the answer is yes, then you go to the next step. Then the second one, you need to check whether it requires share write access. Means is it more than one person can update the things? For example, it's a CG student management system. Is there multiple admin that can go in to update student results? Then the third one is are the writers known and trusted, whether they can trust each other, whether there could be any conflict of interest, and so on. Then lastly, then you also have to, whether you need to use a trusted third party such as lawyer and so on, or banks and so on. Then that will basically help you to determine whether you should use a blockchain or you use a private blockchain technologies, hybrid blockchain technologies, and also a private blockchain technologies. So these are the flow charts that will suggest people who to go through if you want to select for blockchain technologies. So again, there are many different kinds of blockchain technology out there. So easily there are tens or hundreds of them. But how do you select the right technologies for your blockchain applications? That really depends on your use cases and in terms of your scalability and so on. So there are different kinds of blockchain technologies where I will skip through because there are just a lot. I will go straight to the case study. Yeah, so this is a case study. In a way, let's say I have a company, I want to launch a crowdfunding event to develop their blockchain projects. Then being a consultant, what blockchain technology you would like to recommend to them and why? So for this case study, I will basically suggest to use some public blockchain technology like Ethereum and Tron because they have the ERC20 and TRC20 technology, which can be easily adopted by the exchange so that can ensure sufficient liquidity for your ICO tokens. Then in terms of the second case study, let's say Ministry of Health of one country would like to launch an electronic health record and what the blockchain technology will recommend them to use. Yeah, for these situations, I personally will suggest to use Hyperledger Fabric, because it's a private blockchain, so that the data is not known to the public. Although we can encrypt the data, but we want to have ensures total coverage of security. Then we will have a private blockchains. And at the same time, private blockchains, we can do a consortium, so that in the future, let's say the private hospital, they would like to join this, they can also join it. So this is the advantage of using Hyperledger Fabric. Then the third case study could be a company would like to launch a cross-border e-wallet, which can be used to perform micro-transactions. It must be fast, low transaction fee, and able to support high transaction volume. So based on this one, we think Ethereum and Bitcoin is not suitable due to the transaction fee is very high as they are using a proof of work consensus algorithm, and it's not fast enough due to the block time. So that's why for these circumstances, I think that you can actually explore things like Stellar, So this is one of blockchain technology which is fast and low transaction fee that is very suitable for this. Then lastly, so let's say a company would like to launch a social network platform for the public. The function are create posts, like, comment, and so on. So what blockchain technology we recommend them to use? So for this case study, basically, if you look into a flow chart that I shared just now, you don't really have to use a blockchain. So you just use a normal centralized technology that help you to support millions of concurrent users, unless there are certain part, like let's say that you want to ensure some things that have to be audit trail, then for that part you use a blockchain is fine. But you don't have to build everything in blockchains. That's a pointer that I want to highlight. So I have 1 minute left, but before I go into a Q&A sessions, I will basically share a bit on the demo that I promised just now. So now I go into the demo mode. So this is a sample blockchain's console that we have built. Then for example, I want to store student A, the CGPA is 4.0. So after I store the data into the blockchains, I do a mining. Then it will basically carry the mining outcomes to the second block. So after that, then I will have another student. Let's say this student B is 3.0. Then as you can see, after mining, this hash key is basically become the previous of the second block. So in between, let's say I try to amend something. Instead of student A, I see this result is owned by student C. So you see immediately it becomes a red color because the blockchain detect this is something wrong. The hash is already changed. It doesn't match with the previous block. So this is one illustration. And the last demo I have is basically, as you can see, this is a local HTML. Then it's a simple lecturer voting system. So imagine that I want to vote for a best lecturer. So I can basically just put one and send to blockchains. And I can get my voter address and so on. So a beautiful part is I don't even need a server. Everything is done on the blockchain environments. And the code is actually quite simple as well. So basically you go to a JavaScript and so on. Then you can see that's all. The code is very simple. So you just need 3 lines of code in order to get the lecturer's address. Then you just need 3 lines of code in order to submit a vote. So that's a beautiful part of the blockchains. You don't have to worry about how do you interface with the database, how do you deploy the server and so on. So you just need basically your account, your private key, and then your whether you are selecting which Lobster or other testnet or mainnet. Yeah, that's about it. So now I think we can work on the Q&A sessions. Thank you.
Thank you, AK, for your insights. You can see that, yeah, blockchain is like the in thing, but they are also not always. We have to review back if we really need the blockchain. I think the flow chart is very useful. Thank you so much to kind of make a reflect. So could you share a bit about what you have done in the doc to us in the software inside, how exactly has been applied the blockchain inside here?
Oh yeah, sure. So basically in Doc2Us, what we do is we have this electronic health records. In Doc2Us, we need to have a shared ledgers that store the biodata. The biodata consists of things like the blood pressures, the BMIs, the lab test report, and also including some of the energy or doctor informations. So for that purpose, because there are different parties that need to do a read and write to this data, that could include things like clinical information system, equal manual inputs from the pharmacists and doctors, and it could be synchronization from a wearables such as Apple Watch and also others, Fitbit and so on. So that's why when we have multiple parties that require to do a read and write to a shared biodata, then we decided to use blockchains so that we can track who actually amended the data, at where, and so on. So that's why this is how we use a Hyperledger Fabric, and also we can use it to control the permissions, who can do a reading, who can do the writing, and so on. So that's the reason that we're using blockchain for these applications.
Thank you. Thank you, AK, again. So ladies and gentlemen, I know there are a lot of questions or excitement to raise. Again, as we mentioned, we are collecting the questions, so keep it coming and we'll push it to the, bring it to the forum session soon. So I hope you all also gain some very refreshing perspective of blockchain technology from all the three speakers, from Dr. Fazli, from Renee, and from AK. So we will move on with into the forum session. And I would like to invite Ms. Choco from TalkChain, okay, and also our very own MBA student, Ding Wen Kai, to continue to lead us in moderating the forum. So for your information, TalkChain is a Chinese blockchain and cryptocurrency media platform. Then they strive to serve the people by delivering quality blockchain or crypto-related content. So if it looks like we are almost ready. So Choco and Wen Kai, I'll pass the floor to you all. All right.
Okay, thank you, Haizhi. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining today's forum organized by Xiamen University MBA Center. I'm Choco from TalkChain. For those who do not know about TalkChain yet, TalkChain is a blockchain media based in Malaysia. We are striving to serve the people by delivering quality blockchain and crypto-related contents as our contribution towards the growing gem space.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Wen Kai, and I'm a first semester student here at Xiamen's MBA program. Choco and I will be your hosts for the next hour, and we hope that everyone will walk away with new ideas as well as insights from today's forum.
Moving right along, it is now our pleasure to introduce our guest speakers of today. We have Dr. Fazli Shah. He was previously the Chief Strategy Officer at Malaysia Digital Economy Corporation, MDEC, until April this year. And now he's the Managing Director at Awesome Digital Assets. Welcome, Dr. Fazli.
Hi, everyone.
And then we have Mr. Rene Bernard, who is the co-founder and CEO of LuxTech, which we've already heard, which stands for Luxury Tag. And he is also the founding president of Access Blockchain Association, Malaysia.
Okay. Moving along, we have Mr. AK Tan Ek Kyong. He's the founder and CEO of Acmo Studio, and he's also the president of Malaysian Mobile App Developer Association. So today, our forum will be focusing on the topic of blockchain, the decentralized future.
The pandemic situation has exposed underlying weaknesses and systemic issues in the global business environment. Some of these issues compounded by the pandemic include the disruption of supply chains impacting the retail industry, challenges with the secure transfer of patient records by health facilities, as well as the problem of fraudulent claims that the government, fraudulent unemployment claims that the government agencies had to deal with.
So the solution for many of these challenges may lie in the use of blockchain technology. More and more businesses are finding applications utilizing blockchain in their system and processes. In today's forum, we'll be looking at three different aspects of blockchain. First, we're going to look at how is it going to affect entrepreneurs and businesses. Secondly, we'll be looking at the benefits of blockchain in anti-counterfeiting. And lastly, of course, cryptocurrencies, to find out whether blockchain can help to address the exposed weaknesses.
So in our first section, we'll be looking at blockchain and how it affects entrepreneurs as well as businesses. In business, the pandemic has forced the relevant authorities to explore different ways of addressing those underlying issues. So the question we have is, are there any government initiatives or policies in place to solve those issues? What are the incentives that Malaysia is providing to entrepreneurs to start a blockchain company? So Mr. AK, since you have been appointed as an expert by MDEC recently, can we have you take this question first?
Yeah, sorry, can you repeat your questions? I was setting our virtual background. Yeah.
Sorry, no problem. All right, okay. So number one, I mean, there are two related ones. Number one, are there any government initiatives or policies in place to solve those issues? And number two, what are these incentives that the government has provided to entrepreneurs to start a blockchain company? Otherwise, Dato' Fazli, if you would like, you can also take this. Probably.
Oh, yeah, it's okay. So I think I will start with mine first, then maybe Dr. Fazli can add on. Yeah, cool. So I think in general, government is putting a lot of focus in terms of blockchains. If you look into the new MSC status guideline, so one of the approved activities are actually blockchains together with other emerging technology such as AI, fintech, and so on. So from here, we can see government actually want to cultivate and actually build more talents in the blockchain industry. They are giving tax incentive in a way if you are setting up a tech company and you focus in a blockchain technologies. So that is actually one of the focus that we can see MTech or governments is putting a lot of efforts in terms of giving incentive for the blockchain industries. Secondly, in terms of the regulation developments that we can see by securities commissions in Malaysia. So from previously, they started like digital asset exchange that actually regularize this digital asset exchange like cryptocurrency. So far there are 3, and actually today we have 4 exchange being approved by the governments, so which are Luno, Tokenized, Synergies, and also MS Exchange. Then the next step from the government is basically they want to also regulate this initial exchange offering. So there are many interested parties basically apply for this initial exchange offerings. Then with the IEO, what happened is that being an entrepreneur, we can also do a fundraising using these ICO mechanisms compared to the traditional equity crowdfundings, where ICO can allow you to basically raise more money. That's what we can see here. Then apart from here, the government has also have this new framework called digital asset custodian, so that can ensure the investor money can be protected under the digital assets custodian. So from here, these are 3 of the initiatives that we can see how governments is supporting the blockchain industry developments. The first is via the tax incentive from the MSC status. The second one is basically regulating this digital asset exchange and also the initial exchange offering. Yeah.
I see. Thank you, Mr. AK, for the insightful informations. So is there any add-on from Dato' Fazli?
Yeah, I think AK covered most of it, right? It is quite encouraging that the SC is regulating this space. I mentioned earlier on, like, you know, we're in this, the blockchain development and cryptocurrency development is really kind of like, you know, in the early days of the internet, right? If you compare it, like it's the days of Sun Microsystem or Intel kind of pioneering the way, and then you have your first generation of web browsers like Excite, Alta Vista, if some of you can remember those, or Netscape Navigator, right? So when you we don't have the Google of this industry yet. So, but I believe that because a lot of blockchain applications affect local international supply chains, and also, you know, whichever way you use, there's probably going to be at least a few endpoints where you want to integrate or you want to be able to use the local currency, or at least a currency that you trade with other countries. So we believe that the eventual winners in this space will be in the regulated space, right? So regulators need time to kind of understand this further, and I think the major regulators in this space are Bank Negara and SC, or the Securities Commission. So I think they are, I think as Arumugam asked me just now, like they're doing some stuff in there, but we have to be realistic about what's the speed a regulator can move at, because they want to because it's pretty difficult for regulators to change the decisions afterwards, right? It causes a lot of market confusion. And I think for specifically your crowd today, if there are a lot of foreign students in Xiamen, and maybe Renee has first-hand experience in this, if you're looking at setting up a blockchain company or setting up Malaysia, the MSC has or the multimedia support corridor incentives, where the government gives you up to 10 years tax-free for the main business activities, but also the commitment to kind of help the founders with the visas, so you can be in Malaysia through the MTEP, Malaysia Technology Entrepreneurs Pass. So depending on your experience level, either a 1-year visa upfront, or they give you up to 5 years multiple entry, and then when you start hiring staff, you can hire foreign staff, and that's an open commitment from the government to kind of expedite. It's a separate lane. It's a separate lane than the rest of immigration. So with those, I think it addresses a lot of issues. AK, in fact, is one, as you mentioned just now, who was appointed as a subject matter expert, especially on our talent expert network. So I believe the Renee and AK both have lots of input onto like what kind of talents you need for the space. But generally what we are seeing is that you cannot rely on just the Malaysian local supply of talent to be able to have, you know, everything that or skill sets from other places, and hopefully one day, much like Renee, like they fall in love with a beautiful Southeast Asian girl, and then they stay here forever, right? And yeah, okay.
Thank you for those very insightful answers. We actually didn't know that there were so many different incentives from the Malaysian government, and this is really wonderful news to hear. Okay, and then now we have this for Mr. Renee. So we believe that there are a lot of startups trying to adopt blockchain technology into their business, but they do not know where to start. So as the founding president of Access Blockchain Association Malaysia, if there's one thing that SMEs can do to start moving in this direction, what advice would you give to the future entrepreneurs in this in our audience?
Well, you might be mixing up the SME and the startup sectors, which is different now. It's a different focus. You said that. You said that what about SMEs, and then what about startups? I completely separate this one. SMEs might have already an existing business, right? Something running already, and the startups not yet. They are still validating, finding their product market fit, their minimum viable products. This is a completely different sector. So I have two different advice for these two different sectors. Yes. So for the SMEs, they might need to slowly consider having an internal innovation officer or department to assess what can be done to improve their bottom line and whether these technologies contribute to it. So mingling with the people around something like the Access Blockchain Association or other experts would definitely help. Invite some experts, do some scoping sessions to see what's the business cases, what can the technology do. This is definitely possible, and companies like AGMO, our business, or others are available to advise. And often we are asked to consult, and we even say, no, doesn't make sense. You don't need, you don't use. Better do other business, right? It's not just that people need to jump on the hype technology. But for startups, it's a completely different thing. There, it is about validating that this makes sense, validating, finding a minimum viable product, and this PMF, product market fit, very important. And then you seek helps of startup incubation, acceleration places. You need to read books like Eric Ries, the Lean Startup, to learn about how to run a business. Startup is a completely different animal. You need to manage a startup differently than an existing business. It's a high risk to fail and even a high chance to make it. Different thing. So yeah, and for blockchain, it's nothing too different than other technology businesses. Rather, the same approach for the startup direction.
Recording stopped.
Oh, I see that we are being rearranged in our virtual background.
Yes.
Shuffled around.
A small technical error just now, so we actually got kicked out from this immersive view.
No problem. Maybe while you are rearranging, allow me to mention one point regarding your first question with the initiatives. If somebody was interested in the initiatives around here, you can even go to our website called sandbox.gov.my. Sandbox.gov.my has even as one of the focus technologies, blockchain technology, and that's something you might apply for grants and supports. The Technology Park Bukit Jalil is very active in this one. Yeah, many interesting projects, programs are available for this direction. Yeah. You know, Malaysia has so many agencies and ministries, and then MOSTI and MDEC matching grants, and all this, MSC, yes, MTAP, so many things there of all these agencies.
Okay, thank you for the addition.
Thank you, Mr. Renee. So coming to the second session of our forum today, we'll be discussing on the benefits of blockchain in anti-counterfeiting. So blockchain technology can provide full transparency of all transactions that have ever been executed. This traceability feature is crucial for governance in halal market. And there seems to be a growing demand in halal certification services. So Dr. Fazli, do you think blockchain will be the next frontier in halal certification?
Okay, well, provenance, right? Essentially, this is what the issue is about, right? Is in theory one of the greatest kind of aims of something like blockchain, because the underlying technology promises to be so secure and immutable, as all three of us have mentioned today. Yeah, but Rene made a great point just now during his presentation, which is that who benefits and how do they benefit, right? So in theory, yes, consumers will want to know that the goods, for example, we take a halal space, that the goods that I eat are really halal, or like the supply chain that supply not just the cow, but of course the halal space, like gelatin, for example, is a huge issue, right? But are the consumers willing to pay a premium for this? And that's something that the market would have to see. Which are the different players in the supply chain that are highly motivated or motivated at all to kind of solve this. Blockchain, if you go back to AK's example just now, AK kind of demonstrated that blockchain technology, or rather the base technology of kind of creating the blocks, and then the relationship between the blocks is relatively simple. But it's not just about the protocol, right? To roll out a blockchain initiative within one company is already very expensive, and the entire value chain, there's so many points of failure because everybody in the value chain has to kind of participate. So I guess my short answer is, yeah, in theory, everybody would love to have it, but who's going to take the risk, and who's going to make that investment? Halal in Malaysia, similar to like how you would have MDEC, there is an agency called Halal Development Corporation, HDC, but they do not actually hold the standards. The standards are held by JAKIM, which is the religious authority. And so if you imagine, if you meet them, it's fairly difficult to imagine which one of them would become blockchain or tech experts, right? So I agree with what kind of the other speaker said just now. A lot of these promises of what blockchain can bring has to start. It probably will start with people and it will end with people. You need to have the innovation kind of team within the group that has, I guess drawing from my own experience, there's a lot of value. Like if you learn a bit about it, if you know the technology and then you know the policy and then you know the business use cases, but it's very difficult to try to imagine that everybody in the business would have all of the skill sets all at once. So I think you need to start with that common link. But a lot of these use cases are going to be very difficult to do kind of like just overnight. Right?
I see. So it might be still a very long way if you want to make blockchain.
I mean, the best advice I can give is like if you have students from Xiamen or guys who are in industry right now and you want to solve it, sometimes the solution is not to start your own company. Sometimes the solution, or part of the solution, would be that you join and you know enough about this, you go and join those organizations. I mean, that's why I joined MDEC, right? Because I was sitting out here in the industry for so many years, and we kept on complaining like, oh, MDEC doesn't do this, doesn't do that, doesn't address this. Even though MDEC also already addressed a few other things, but you can't make everybody happy about everything. So I would really encourage a lot of people who are really interested in this space and then and know a lot about the technology to kind of join. Maybe you have to join the HDC. Maybe you should join Matrix, maybe you should join even some of the big corporations. And just now somebody brought up in the Q&A, right, which are the major companies who are going big into blockchain? Now, if you look at Rene's example just now, they have a tag that might be on a consumer good, but the truth is, like, how many of the consumers will actually go and tag that, right? The value of that tagging is not really for the consumer, it's for the business, which is a great example of the fact that blockchain technology it's not always as I think Rene's title was the invisible technology, right? So even in the products, it's not obvious to you that you use the blockchain, but in the value chain it is. So in fact, I know that large companies like MyG are trying to look at transforming their technology using blockchain. Right, a few years ago they launched a blockchain-based payroll system. There are also large telco companies like Axiata and also large banks, like Maybank and CIMB, who are experimenting with blockchain. The problem is that it's not something that they can commit to, change immediately. They have to go to lots of testing, because once you do it, once you change your database standard, it's going to be very difficult if you make a mistake and you want to change back, right? So the second thing is that because there is no ringgit stablecoin, I don't foresee that a lot of these technologies can really come up to the consumer level without significant risk, because if not, you're transacting everything that might eventually be denominated in US dollar. The US dollar already is the reserve currency. I mean, in many ways, it's the reserve currency of the cryptocurrency space, right? Everyone's trading the Ethereum, Bitcoin, Cardano, even Dogecoin, but they're holding the conduit currency is already something related to US dollar. So if you take that, it's very difficult to kind of expect your local 7-Eleven or your supermarket to be able to offer you blockchain related or cryptocurrency related offerings if they constantly have to undertake the forex risk. Yeah.
Understood. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the answer. You answered quite a lot in different aspects, not just only. Yeah, that's just very insightful. And I think we all need to know all about this in blockchain before we even step into blockchain. Okay.
Right. Okay, after this, for the time being, we'll try and slot in some audience questions in between instead of just following our schedule here, because we are running out of time a little bit and we want to give the audience a chance to have their questions answered and their voices heard. So, all right, we have a first question here from Zhao Chim Sebastian. And he's asking, with NFTs taking the Western world by storm, blockchain is as a mechanism for royalty management that is in perpetuity is a game changer for the creative world. So do you see this movement as an acceptance in Malaysia for this? Do you see any acceptance in Malaysia for this? And who are spearheading this movement for NFTs?
Maybe I'll start, right? Like there are a few local platforms. I think the NFT space is something, because we don't trade on some of the other typically larger volume cryptocurrencies like ETH. It shouldn't be limited by geography. But having said that, if you imagine how an NFT is issued, right, and it's talked specifically with royalties, there's a big difference between the royalties of the Beatles, the songs by the Beatles, and a song by I believe it's in Guang Li, right? There's a famous Taiwanese singer Guang Li, and the royalties of somebody like Siti Nurhaliza from Malaysia, because who would be interested to share in those? The audience is not always global, right? So I think there is probably an opportunity for local NFT plays because Kevin Kelly, for example, wrote a book called 1,000 Fans, that you might have 1 million people who are interested in you, but there's probably only 1,000 who are willing to, like, kind of like, let's say, the fanatic ones who would really back something like this, right? But I think the essence of the question is, will it be a game changer to royalty? Yeah, definitely, because essentially it means that if I back the NFT and then it's got a share of royalty, if that's part of the NFT, that when I sell it to AK, the musician doesn't even have to know that I sold it to AK, because the system in itself will ensure that AK gets the next payment of royalties instead of me, right? So I think it's stage. On that note, I think there's Pentas, and then there's there's NFT Pangolin, and then there's at least 2, maybe even 3 startups who are trying to operate in this space in Malaysia. So those of you who are interested in that probably should reach out to them, and maybe you can be part of the pioneer team too, right?
And if I may add, actually, one point is that NFT, non-fungible tokens, when we break it down, is actually the opposite of fungible tokens, right? And fungible is, for example, the Malaysian ringgit or even one USD. You want one ringgit to be the same value as another one ringgit. When you look at banknotes, for example, you want them to be fungible. Even in the Bitcoin world, you ideally want to have one Bitcoin worth the same as another one Bitcoin. And in the NFT world, you want to have something special where this thing is not interchangeable with anything else. It's unique. And I used that word unique even in my presentation earlier, because actually we at Luxtech, we've been doing NFTs since 2017, right? We have non-fungible representations of physical objects since the very beginning. However, we focus on the link between that digital non-fungible token and the real world non-fungible glass of Nutella, because I can hold one here in this hand and another one in this hand. It's 2 different things. It's not one only. So I think it will be very interesting to see the future of this NFT and physical world link. Right, and I'm quite sure that we as Luxtech, we are exactly very well positioned in that middle direction, the link between the digital only and physical only. We are going phygital.
Yeah, Renee, sorry, Joe here. Yeah, thanks, Dr. Hazli, for the reply. My addition to that is that the intention of my question was actually to explore something where real artists sell the artwork combined with the NFT, exactly as you said. So, you buy the artwork, you get the NFT, so you enjoy the physical representation and its digital representation in perpetuity. So we're looking at exploring this for Malaysian creative companies to actually have a different commercialization venture. So, hopefully we can do something great. Okay, thanks.
So Joe, is that something that you're doing, your own company is doing?
It's well, I'm working with a pottery guy from Terengganu, and we're digitalizing his entire existence. So NFTs are one of the pathways. So of course, it's operating at the UK NFT exchange right now. So I was just wondering if there's a Malaysian equivalent, because again, as you said, the market.
I mean, the best part about this kind of subsector, right, NFT, is that it's not regulated now, right?
Yep.
So I think you guys should be as creative as possible, but always bear in mind that even though you do it as an NFT, you may start touching on other regulations, for example, securities regulations, because if you imagine the same use case in I wouldn't say real life, but like offline, non blockchain kind of life, the contract kind of share royalty is actually a traded security, right? So you should probably refer to the CMSA, the Capital Market Securities Act, and also the Financial Services Act under Bank Negara, because I think in theory the technology would work, right? The technology is feasible, but legally, whether it's enforceable, it's something that maybe you should look into.
Yeah, and then also the withholding tax requirements of the countries that you operate in, right? Because royalty is based on there's various treatments across the world, so it's very complicated. I don't think the regulation is going to catch up soon, so we just do first.
Yeah, if I may add on, so if there is a local artist, her name is Rick Hong Yi.
Yeah, I know.
So she showed this torch to the moon. Yeah, for 36 Ethereum, which is about 325,000. That's a lot of money. And I would want to add on, this is not a one-time earning, because using NFT mechanism, the creator will get a royalty for each of the transactions. So imagine this guy sold this he bought for 36 Ethereum, then in the future he might sold it for 50 Ethereum. The creators will still get benefits as a loyalty fee. So I think this will be a very good loyalty platforms for the creators. Yeah.
I mean, when you mine the token itself, you put in the smart contract, right? So that's where it actually defines the royalty in perpetuity. So I don't think a lot of people actually explore and understand this in Malaysia as of yet. Not many people are talking about it, so we should, talk about it more.
True.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thanks to all our speakers for answering the question and giving all these useful advices to Joe as well as our audience, because NFT is totally a very new thing, still very new in Malaysian market, and I guess a lot of people are still not clear about what NFT actually is. So hopefully in the future we will have more sessions and talk about NFT. And so now let's move along to the next session. We are going to look at the third section, which is everyone's favorite, cryptocurrencies. Now, this question will be open to all our speakers. Although cryptocurrency is no longer a new topic in blockchain, but some countries still try to regulate cryptocurrencies. And recently, this has raised a rather fresh and arguable topic. These governments want to control governments want to control cryptocurrencies in the same manner that control traditional currency. Do you think that cryptocurrencies should be regulated? Please explain. Anyone first?
Cool. Who wants to go first?
Yeah, I think I will do it first. So I think from the central government perspective, there is a need to regulate cryptocurrency in the area of the AML and CFT, which is anti-money laundering and also counter-funding of terrorism. I mean, imagine if, let's say, someone used this one Bitcoin to fund the terrorists to build a bomb and it killed thousands of people. So this is a huge damage. So, I mean, that's why governments need to control this kind of cryptocurrency tradings in terms of controlling the AML and CFT. Then on the second aspect is basically to protect the minority interests, especially when they are investing in the things like ICO. Previously, when the ICO is not being regulated, I heard many very different scam coins from the Durian coins or whatever coins. So people just basically simply create a coin. I mean, I can create a coin for you in 2 minutes. Basically, it's very simple ICO contract that everyone can use a ERC20 smart contract protocol to create that. But how do we protect the investors? Some of the investors, they might not be sophisticated enough to understand what is the risk of investment and so on. So that's why I think Malaysian governments are doing a great job in terms of at the same time, they want to protect the minority interests, but they don't want to basically kill all these innovations. But we have to find a balance in between by creating sufficient protections and yet is giving space for the entrepreneurs to create something. That's what we can see as a current regulations is happening now. We have all these digital asset exchange to control the cryptocurrency exchanges. And also we have things like, of course, today we know the government just banned Binance because they are not registered with Digital Asset Exchange Malaysia. So and previously Remitano was also being banned as well, because when the investor money is with them, something happens, government cannot do anything to protect the investors. So it's really important to have a proper regulation out there. But at the same time, again, we need to give some sufficient freedoms to the entrepreneurs to use their innovation to create something. Yeah, that's my view. Yeah.
Yeah, just yesterday, actually, Binance sent out the email to everybody and warned and put the Binance on an investor alert list. And then within 2 weeks, Binance is now asked to even remove all Malaysian users from their Telegram chat group and block the access through access blocking for Malaysian users to the Binance exchange. So I think I personally think that that's not the best move, and people might want to decide over their own risk, chance, and fate. But then I hear AK with the interest to protect investors. So I'm torn in between these two worlds, and in my opinion, I think the exchanges to Malaysian ringgit and into the crypto world, we call it off ramps and on ramps, to regulate them, fine. I am agreeable to that level, but to regulate the crypto world and the transfers of cryptocurrencies from one person to the other, or transfers or conversions of cryptocurrencies within the cryptocurrency world, I am personally of the opinion to keep that a bit more open to the users.
Yeah, maybe I can just share a little bit of my thoughts on this, right? I really agree with what Renee said. You have this concept of on-ramps and off-ramps, how people kind of enter this space. But the products within the space, I think those shouldn't be regulated at all, right? Because you need a fairly high level of sophistication to be heavily involved in these projects. And the role of regulators is to protect the small guy. I think in a utopian world where everybody knows enough of what they need to know about the thing that they want to invest in or participate in, then there will be no need for regulators. But the truth is, regulators exist because when people lose money, they will go to those regulators and then they will almost insist, like, it doesn't matter that you didn't regulate Binance, it doesn't matter that Remitano is not based in Malaysia, but I lost money and you need to do something to protect me. So I think it's also unfair to the regulators when the public does this, because you take the risk without following the guidelines by the regulators, and you still expect the regulators to save you when you're on the downside. Nobody actually comes back to the regulator and says, hey, in February, look at how much money I made in Bitcoin. Thank you very much. Let me support you as a regulator. Nobody does that. People always look at the regulator because they have, you know, I wouldn't even argue that they have nobody else to turn to, but they feel like the regulators are the easiest ones to turn to. So I think it's a very difficult position to be in to be a regulator. But I do agree that the on and off ramps, which marketplaces you make available, that one should be regulated, because there's going to be a huge segment of users who are going to rely on the trust that's given to the regulated ones to know that that's a proper way to put their money. Malaysia is, like many countries, not immune or in fact very, very often very much attracted by this very high growth investment schemes, right? So even if it's outside the blockchain or cryptocurrency space, you can see there's so many scams. Eventually, you know, they come out as scams. People lose millions of dollars to these. And so I think regulators should be there to kind of at least make an assessment of whether which things are safe. But, you know, I think at the core, what kind of projects should be done on blockchain, all that, I don't think those should be regulated at all. Some projects will, assuming the projects which are honest and are not there to just scam people. I mean, if you're in the space, you know about BitConnect, for example, right? So some of them, even from the beginning, are already very obvious as scams. But assuming the subset of them who are not scams and they're really trying to push innovation, investors and participants always have to understand that there's always still a risk in the viability of that innovation. So sometimes things fail, not because they're cheating you, things fail because they're just very, very difficult to do. So kind of regulating the cost space, I think, will be detrimental to the overall innovation in the world. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for the sharing. And then now I'll relate this to one of our previous questions from the audience, which is also related to the regulation. And it comes from Zaran Zuhir. And he's asking, what would the crackdown of China on the cryptocurrencies impact the technology as a whole? And so because of China's, the actions that they've been taking recently, and considering that it previously was, China was the #1 country in terms of crypto mining. So how would this affect the technology as a whole?
Okay, maybe I can start. I don't think it's going to affect it, right? I think Chinese people and Chinese entrepreneurs are very resourceful. They will move to where they can make the business work. If it means that they can't do it onshore in China, they'll find somewhere else to do it, right? I have to give a lot of credit to I think that historically, the Chinese population, the Chinese exodus, are probably amongst the most resourceful people in history, right? That's why you have a Chinatown in almost every major city. You don't have a Malaysia town in every city. You don't have like a French town in every city, but you typically have a Chinatown. So they have, I think the advantage is already to them, where they have a population which has a global network, and they're very resourceful, and they'll find ways to do it. At the same time, I think the crackdown by the Chinese government is not entirely like just to punish the industry. What seems fairly clear to us is that the Chinese government has a plan, right? Maybe they cannot be openly public about the plan right now, because these kind of plans are very, very complicated and requires a lot of different players to buy in. But I don't think this will be the end in terms of mining overall in China. I think it probably just takes a different flavor of mining, and I think the ones who have already invested into the infrastructure will still use it, but maybe they will migrate the infrastructure out to somewhere else.
Okay, thank you. I think this is actually very related to another question that we have, which is also about this issue being in China, where the argument against Bitcoin is the environmental damage in terms of the use. So what do you think we need to apply in terms of any other kind of greener way of doing this, that kind of thing? This question actually came from Lily.
Yes. So actually, this is, people always find some arguments and to create this FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubts. And now the ESG is something everybody's looking into, and the streaming services, the Netflix and iFlix and all these around the world use 2 or 3 times more electricity than the Bitcoin nodes and mining. Maybe we should just ban streaming technologies. I don't know, like or other things that there is. Like it's just like they found, or even the traditional banking sector with all the ATMs around the world and all these magnitudes more than the Bitcoin electricity consumption, right? So it's just the perspective here of somebody read an article and looks, wow, that's a lot. Let me talk about that, and then somebody else builds on that. But anyhow, there's a movement happening right now to move towards more green energy blockchain operations. And many of these Chinese mining operations, as mentioned right now, they not only the Chinese people, but people who used to mine in China, even foreigners used to mine in China because it was a cheap mine. When I mean like a Bitcoin mining, right? So now they move to other countries, to Russia, to Kazakhstan, to other places where they have even much more hydropower than China. So I think. We will see even it's already being debunked, right? It's like it's already been debunked that it's not such a huge problem, but that problem which it remains, there is electricity consumption, right? It is getting greener and greener every day. So yeah, I'm not too worried about that. It will go with the vibe.
Yeah, if I may add on, if you see Elon Musk previously Tesla will accept Bitcoins, then Elon Musk say Tesla no longer accepting Bitcoin due to it's not green enough because it's not environmental friendly due to all these mining activities. But me personally thinks mining wouldn't be last for too long due to the blockchain evolutions. Naturally, we will move on to others more efficient consensus algorithm that I shared just now, such as proof of stake and so on. So killing mining doesn't mean it will kill the cryptocurrencies from my perspective, just that we are going to use a more advanced blockchain technologies that is going to be environmental friendly, yet it maintains the characteristic of the blockchains, which is secure, tamper-proof, and so on. Yeah, that's my view.
Yeah, I think Renee and AK have given like great points, right? But I just want to throw this out there. I think if some of you are looking at kind of like the power generation kind of space, you know, somebody should probably try to go to the Bakun Dam and then try to work out a deal with the hydro generation facility there, because that's what we've been seeing, right? Solar energy is fairly difficult because it's intermittent. You only have it during the day, you know, and it cannot produce that much power in a small enclosed space. Geothermal is very, very expensive to kind of go into, but where you have a lot of hydro, mini hydro, that means they generate electricity through the the kinetic energy of the flow of water right in the river. There's a lot of use cases, and then there's actually a lot of Bitcoin projects moving towards that part. Yeah, a lot of times in this kind of mining type setups, the problem is not really the technology to mine, but it's the commercial arrangement, trying to get, you know, the relevant authorities and state governments and all that to allow you to do it. In some countries, they're very open. They say our entire nation wants to you know, that's what happened in a way, like in a lot of the Central Asian countries. They're like saying, come over here, let's build great infrastructure for mining. But in some, you know, you have to kind of really go down to that state level and then work out a deal there. So yeah, I think generally there's lots of opportunities for maybe even some of your graduates to kind of build businesses around there.
Yeah, thanks to all of our speakers. I hope they answered the question. So if there's any other questions, you may keep telling us in the chat. And there's this one question. It's quite fun. It's related to AI from the floor, and we would like to bring up to the table. So the question from Lily: Finance department is an important department to all companies and keep all the financial data and transactions. So nowadays, finance department is in the transformation to more AI deployment. So how would blockchain can assist finance department in this context? This is the question. Like, yeah, any speaker would like to answer it, please?
In general, blockchain technology helps to ensure data integrity, right? Data integrity or trust in data sets. And there's two different approaches, I would say, for traditional ledger keeping or financial departments. Either they want to use blockchain technology for its token transfer features, that you represent something with tokens which gets moved from one account to the other. It can be from an accounting account, like, you know, in the account-based bookkeeping, or even representing monies, right? This can be done as tokens, but the other use can be just to enhance integrity of data sets, which could be even, you know, the simplest way is you can imagine a snapshot of a database ledger. A snapshot means like you look at all the data and you create a checksum of this data set. A checksum is like when you change any byte inside that ledger, then the checksum would change. It's a verification code. And if you want to secure the data state at a given time, that this was the data at that time, you can create a snapshot, you have a checksum of that snapshot, and you embed this checksum into a blockchain ledger as a data object. That's similar how we are putting update messages or messages into these blocks of blockchains. And this one checksum is burned in, can't be changed anymore. And now looking back at the previous state of the database, we can then confirm this was the real state of that database at that time. So we enhance the integrity of whatever accounting systems. This can be financial accounting, stock keeping, or whatever, voting or other things, without using the blockchain technology for its monetary or token transfer methods, just for safekeeping information or information about information, like a checksum. So I think it could more go into that direction to slightly improve the security and not overthrow the whole system directly.
Yeah, so if I may add on, I think in terms of the financials world, I may particularly will look into procurement and supply chains. So for example, you want to track the source originality of a specific product, whether you are buying from a trusted source and so on, then imagine you have a solution like LastTag that help you to trace where the product is coming from and so on. That is also one of the use case of blockchains can solve, so that you can know this product is coming from a genuine producers and so on. On the other hand, nowadays we also see carbon trading. Carbon trading is also one of the common use case in Western country, where they use a blockchain to basically to track the buying and selling of the carbon credits. So that can also form part of this ESG program as well. So these are two of the examples that I can relate to the blockchains. Of course, the possibility is endless. Like what Renee says, blockchain is about securities and so on. Anywhere that you think you need a high security, then you can consider using blockchains. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to comment a little bit on, like, if I understand the question correctly, right, there's also an element there that because there's a lot of processes within companies that maybe AI is going to replace, right? This is kind of, I guess if I can paraphrase, like, will AI or the AI bot replace your accountant? Will AI replace your lawyer and all that? I think to a certain degree the answer is yes, but to a large degree, it's never going to be absolute, like as in 100% of your finance department will change by using an AI bot. What is necessary to kind of make this a reality is that yes, you need to have some sort of standards or what are the specs to kind of like how you manage your data. You know, I think like even what Renee touched on before, and also what AK said with the supply chain procurement, it's never one way. You need to have some sort of solution on the supply side or whichever counterparty that company deals with, so that they can be interoperable and registered within whatever the company uses internally for their accounting or finance or transaction tracking system, which is why some sort of standards or selection of interoperable standards, right, is very important. But I would go back to my first argument that none of these things will be a reality if the business constantly has to transact in a currency that they don't actually do in real life, right? So if you're a Malaysian business, it's kind of like having USB for your computers, you know? You don't mind using it because it's interoperable, but this is not a USB kind of question, right? This is like the fact that you do business in ringgit, yet the solutions that you want to use can only be used in US dollar. So do you want to constantly have to support that? So I think there are two major opportunities here that people should solve. Number one is kind of like how to set up the database infrastructure that you would use to kind of train a bot using the data that sits within that database. But number two, before businesses really take it seriously, somebody has to solve like that layer between the solution and then the currency that the company has to use. Yeah, thanks. That's from me.
Okay, thank you for the sharing from all our speakers. Now I would like to open it to our audience first. If any of you would like to speak up and see if any of you want to ask your questions directly, instead, otherwise we'll take the questions from the chat. But we'll allow you a chance to turn on your mic and ask your questions directly.
Yeah, I think Michael here, whether I am showing or not. I would like to ask my question. How can SMEs in Malaysia start? Where and who should I go to if I want to integrate blockchain into my business or startup? Should I do it in-house or outsource it, or where should I go, basically?
Maybe your SME can send an email to AK or Renee and ask them like how AK put out the question just now. This is what I want to do with my business, and then ask them to suggest whether you should use a blockchain solution. Generally, right, SMEs are quite small. Yeah, blockchain development investments are not cheap. Okay, I mean they're not the most expensive things in the world, but they're not kind of like going to the shop and buying a typewriter so they can start typing out documents or buying a copy of Microsoft Word, right? It's probably not that. But having said that, there's a lot of, as Renee said, right, there's a difference between the startups and the SMEs. So there are a lot of technology startups who are trying to create solutions based on the blockchain. And I would really encourage, I think, a lot of SMEs to kind of invest first in the research and reaching out to experts like AK and Renee, getting their advice, and then working together with them or even internally in your teams to go and find off-the-shelf solutions for your businesses. I really wouldn't recommend an SME to kind of create their blockchain solution in-house, because it's not just the size of the investment, it's also the skill sets and everything typically will not be the same skill sets that you're using for your main business of your SME. Yeah. If AK or Renee, you guys have anything else to add on?
Yeah, I concur with Dr. Fasti. I mean, in a way, blockchain could be a huge investment if you are looking to develop it from scratch, having your in-house team to develop and maintain the infrastructures, which could be quite costly. So I think one good way, like for example, we have a client which actually is a subscriber of LastStack. So they are professional associations that they don't build their own technology, but they hope to ensure the professional membership is being tracked in a blockchain environment. So they subscribe to LastStack solution. So they are using blockchain, yet they don't have to have a high capital expenditures in order to build the whole blockchain from scratch. So they have a fast time to market. And also this is more cost efficient. Yeah, that's my thought. So I think actually blockchain is already in our daily life. So not whether you know it or not, but it's already in our daily life, just that you might not use it directly, so you are not aware. Yeah, cool.
And that's exactly what we are launching, the software as a service solution, this brandtag.io. Check that out. For example, as AK said, you don't need to build things, you can use them. You know, nowadays you want to use email, you don't start your own email server, right? You just subscribe to a service or yeah, in that direction. But anyhow, reach out to AK or me for this one. Thanks, Dato' Fazli, for promoting us here. Yes, please.
Actually, I love that analogy by Renee, right? That's so true. Yeah, almost every company wants to use email, but nobody should go and make their own email servers and start making their own email protocols. Use the stuff that already works, because sending out emails is probably not the core business that your SME is doing.
Okay, now we're actually reaching the end of our session because we only have 10 minutes left. I guess we actually have a lot of questions from the audience, but unfortunately we can't get to all of them right now. So we apologize for that, and you all actually can direct your questions to all the speakers through their contacts, which they've shared just now, and I'm very sure that they will be very willing to answer your questions later on. But for our session right now, we would actually like to conclude with one more last question for all the speakers here to share their closing thoughts. So what we would like to know is, when we are looking forward for the next 5 to 10 years in Malaysia, what do you see the future of blockchain landscape will look like?
I think I will take it first. So I mean, personally, I'm a big believer of the blockchains because due to the capability that can solve the trust issues. So in the future, I will foresee more and more blockchain initiatives, especially in the public sector. Due to public sector, there are so much of sensitive data to protect with from the first day that we are give birth. So the birth certificate itself, then until we get marriage certificate and our education certificates, plus the death certificate and everything. So things like that, and also a land registry. So all this important information should really store in the blockchain environments. So that I hope to see more and more public blockchain adoptions. As what Renee shared just now, like MySejahtera, they are already using blockchain technologies for this vaccination tracker. And the good thing about using blockchains is about interoperability, that we can also, for example, we integrate with the Singapore Borders Office so that they can also cross-check the validity of these blockchain certificates and so on. So that is the area that we can see the blockchain developments will be going bigger in the place that the ecosystem. Normally, you don't use blockchain just for within your organization. You use it in the ecosystem so that everyone can have a trustworthy database that can rely on. Yeah, that's my view.
Thank you, Mr. AK.
And the more invisible it stays or becomes, the better, almost. Yes.
So maybe I can give some of my input, right? Specifically in Malaysia. At a macroeconomic level, the big problem that we have is that we are a highly SME dependent economy, right? 97% of our businesses are small to medium enterprise. And when you capture the whole thing is that then you say, well, okay, well, something like Top Glove is also technically called a medium-sized enterprise, but actually the majority, right, are kind of like they hire 7 people or less, okay? And that's the registered businesses. The unregistered businesses or the informal businesses, if you incorporate that, instead of 1.1 million probably Malaysian businesses, you're looking at something like 1.5 to 2 million actual businesses in Malaysia. So that 97% actually becomes something like 99%, right? And like very, very high 99%. There's very few large companies. So a lot of the problems that they face, which could be addressed by blockchain, which the government is looking at, is actually within the realm of what something like where we're headed towards, like in DeFi, right? People need access to capital and resources. Businesses need access to capital and resources, but they probably are not really set up to be able to, you know, in Malaysia, like with the pandemics, you use this protagonist called Makcik Kia, right? I doubt that Makcik Kia is keeping very disciplined books about her transactions day in and day out. Makcik Kia probably uses her business account together with her personal account, right? And all of the value chain that she uses are also probably not sitting on very sophisticated technologies. You know, she's probably going to the market and buying the bananas in the morning and using the same household spending that she has to buy the oil and everything and make the batter. She fries it up and sells it to her neighbors. Sometimes she counts the money, sometimes she doesn't count the money, right? She just believes whatever she has at the end of the day. So I think that a lot of things can transform in terms of the financing supply chain for SMEs. You know, and that's probably where you need a certain group of companies or startups who are going to explore and build blockchain solutions. And I would argue that those would have to be presented to something like the government and say, and then you have to be very tactical about it, right? You don't expect to present it to your MP and then, you know, for example, I live in a place where Hannah Yu is my MP. I can't be showing her and then expecting the whole government to adopt it. You have to kind of put in the effort to kind of show it to the right guys, and then hopefully a significant enough population of the SMEs adopt it. So I think generally that's probably where you will really see blockchain's major impact, right? It's not really industry specific, but I think it's the size of companies that will benefit from it will probably be the smaller sizes ones. And that may also be from a model where a huge company like CIMB or Axiata is the one that adopts the technology and makes it available through their ecosystem, right? Through their Touch and Go or Boost, and it might be something like that too, right? But it's probably unlikely that everybody will just use it organically. You will have to kind of push it out specifically to the target audience. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all of our speakers. Thank you for sharing us, and thank you for painting us a picture of how blockchain could be in next 5 to 10 years. And here comes to the end of the forum. Thank you to all of our speakers here today for sharing your experience with us. I believe that all of us here have gained a lot of insightful information. From this short session today, we now have a slightly better understanding about blockchain and are able to see a clearer picture of blockchain's future.
Okay, once again, thank you to all of our speakers here for sharing and being with us here on a weekend afternoon. All right, I think the speakers are actually leaving their contacts in the chat room. So any of the audience, if you have any other questions that we did not answer just now, we apologize for that because we are short on time, but you might direct it directly to the speakers and they would gladly be able to assist you. So thank you everyone for joining us here today, and please let us pass this back to the MC.
Yep, thank you. Before moving forward, will all the speakers as well as our moderators please smile to the camera? I would like to take a photo. All right, in 3, 2, 1, smile. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks all. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Choco. Thank you, Ms. Choco and Wen Kai, for moderating the forum and getting all the questions sorted out and answered. So we hope that everyone will have learned from each other. So, okay, with this, I believe we have come to the end of our virtual networking day 6.0, an engagement session with our prominent speakers. So thank you for your time and attention. Till we meet again, and everybody have a safe and a great weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Before we leave, another photo with everybody one last time. Please do turn on your cameras if you're able to. Yeah, free and easy. It's a weekend. Thank you very much, everyone, for spending your time with us. Please do turn on your cameras one last time before we leave. Okay, hold on. Some are still turning on their cameras. Right. Okay. I'll be taking one. All right. Thank you. In 3, 2, 1. Oh, some are still holding on. Sorry. Reset the smiles. If not, no cramps. All right. In 3, 2, 1, smile. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you to our guests today, like spending a wonderful Saturday with us.
Yes,
thank you.
The MBA Center will be sending out a feedback form and an invitation to our next preview day in the next couple of days. If you're interested to know more about our program, please do pay us a visit and give us some valuable insight on your experience today. Thank you all for your precious time. It was a wonderful experience. You've been a wonderful audience. We hope that you have a very fruitful session. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Get your vaccine as soon as possible.
Yeah, Malaysia is doing pretty badly. Thank
Get
you
vaccinated,
all.
please.
Thank you, Renee. Thank you, Taco.
Thank you.
AK. Thank you.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Happy weekend.
Thank you, Dr. T.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you all speakers. Thank you, Choco.
Thank you,
Thank
Choco.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you. Have a great
day. Thank you, Huaizi.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hold on.
I think you still have 2. Okay.
I'm removing some participants.
Okay, can all of us probably the organizers stay for about 10 minutes?
Yep.
Let's do a debrief. Is it possible, or you have something else to do?
Can.
Hold on. I'm still removing some of the participants.
Or we can organize another day for debriefing if you are busy.
Thank you all.
Thanks,
Hi,
Joe.
Joachim.
Crap, I was discovered.
Of course, quietly.
Nice one, lah. Good. One of the better sessions I've ever been in, and I've rarely stayed for a forum.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joachim.
Hey, Joe is one of our mentors.
Okay.
Really nice to see our mentors here. Mike, you think you can stop the YouTube? We are still live on YouTube, you know, Mike. We are still live on YouTube.
Hey, see you guys. Take care. Good luck. Bye.
Hey, see you, Joe. Bye.
Yep.
How can we stop YouTube?
I'm stopping.
OBS.